What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the lab. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz, joined by my favorite guest. Him and Chris McDonough are my two favorite guests, but these shows to me are particularly I'm particularly fond of because I know that people do look forward to them. I look forward to them. A lot of good comes out of them as well. And we'll get Chris on the next one as well. But how are you, Dr. Gary?
Good. It's nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well. And did you have a nice week?
That's something of a loaded question because it was a productive week. It was a week of getting a lot accomplished, but a nice week is I wouldn't use that.
You go. Well,
that adjective.
Yeah, it's a loose one. So what? You go 6 days a week, though, correct?
7 days a week. I work basically 7 days a
week. Yeah. Wow. That must be
5-8, as they say.
What's that?
25-8, as Dr. Phil would put it.
And you don't sleep much either. I know that.
No, I love sleep.
I know you love it, but you don't do a lot of it.
No, that's not true. It's just that my hours are sort of random, but hey, there's a correlation between being a night owl and IQ, so I won't.
Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. It's very clear in the literature that people who keep odd sleep hours tend to have higher intellects.
Wow, no, I didn't know that.
So I'm not offended.
I don't know. Are there many people that accuse you of having a low IQ?
Those who have them.
People who have low IQ would probably tell you that you have a low IQ.
But I think just to respond to Caroline, number one, no, about the shirt. Number two, I wouldn't call myself a workaholic because what it is that the work is associated with kind of doing good for people, and so what I have something of an addiction to is more the helping. It's not saying no to situations in which I can help people. But I know, Caroline, you were joking. But anyway, so let's jump in. I mean, we're going to, let's do our caveats, okay? So caveat number one, for the call-in, please no clinical calls. I'll have to demur answering them. And so, I can speak in general terms, sometimes, but I really it's not appropriate for me to answer a clinical question. So please try to stick to true crime or general questions. And then secondly, I really, really want to steer away from any kind of heated political discussion. I know that's on everyone's minds right now, and I just am not interested in discussing it. That is not for here. Different kind of this is a different kind of show. This is a true crime show. Yeah. I know that politics and true crime overlap sometimes, but in this particular situation, scenario, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, and fair. I think completely fair. And also on, I believe it was Friday, if you go over on the podcast playlist, I released a new podcast. If you want to listen to it. It's just about a half an hour. It's a kind of a weekly wrap up podcast that I started. So just be talking about, kind of the wrap up of the week, and sometimes we'll have guests and sometimes it'll just be me. So
Right. Although wrapping up doesn't seem to be happening. I mean, it's more like an unraveling.
yeah.
So that's why I think it's just a good idea to let this be a kind of leaf floating on the river that people can cling to, and not have to talk about that.
You spent
it's
you
too much.
spent so much time in home ec, it's crazy.
Me?
I could just tell you when you brought up the home ec last time, I was thinking about it and I was like, I could just see you like in home ec, like sewing with a apron on.
I don't own an apron.
No, but in high school they would probably give them to you, right?
No.
You didn't wear an apron.
It was more like how to manage a home financially. They would do games like, let's pretend you have X number of dollars. How do you budget, like for the week? How that kind of thing. It wasn't like in the movies when home ec is, they give you a burner on the counter and teach you how to make eggs. It wasn't.
They absolutely. That's what they did at my home. When I didn't have home ec, but I had friends that were in it. And they'd always look. I made some cornbread. Ugh.
No, high school in the movies when I was a kid scared the crap out of me, because if you watch those old movies from the 80s, you know that first of all, the actors that played the high school students were like 40. So that freaked me out. They were like 6'2" and broad and bearded or had coiffed hair or whatever. So that always bothered me. They were driving cars like Porsches.
Right.
And then there was this idea that in gym they made you shower. In the movies they made you think that you had to like literally get in the shower. I don't know where that came from. There were musicals in the 80s and 90s that were like rock themed that made me think that people were going to burst into song, like Teen Witch or Grease 2 or something. I mean, and home ec was one of those things they depicted in those movies that gave me chills, like the idea that I was going to have to, the way they depicted the prom. Oh my God. But by the time I got to high school, I discovered it was nothing like that. I mean,
right. You're completely right about that.
It was horrifying. Do you know, you're ready for this? Do you know that if memory serves, I think I was the homecoming king. Would you believe it? I was in high school seminary for years. And then I went for the last year of high school, I went to a regular high school, and I was very popular because I stood out like a sore thumb. And what wound up happening was they made me the homecoming king. Would you believe it? Isn't that hilarious? Can you picture it? It was too bad I didn't have telekinetic powers like Carrie, with the bucket, and the whole thing. But that is hysterical to me. And the picture of it, I've got to show you. Part of me wonders if it was a gag vote. But and I remember there was this kid. I won't say diagnostically what I thought of him. Let's just say I didn't have high expectations of his.
You didn't think the world of him.
No, I didn't think very much of him. And he looked on because he was so sure he was going to get it that he sort of like stepped forward, and then they announced me and he looked horrified. He was sort of the equivalent of like William Zabka in Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Like the very popular blonde guy with the dippity-doo hair, It was hysterical. And when they said my name, I looked completely shocked, like I was at the Oscars or something. I was like, what? And the next thing you know, I'm on the stage, and it was so funny. And it was a victory against that person.
You like lived a life sort of like Forrest Gump.
I had one of those lives where I was sort of weirdly always there when something happened. It's very strange.
Yeah.
Chris is like that too.
That's true.
Like something in the news, and I'll be like, "Yeah, I knew the person who knew that person," or
you
consulted on it, or I am sort of always there. It's true.
You're connected because you're in the you're in the heart of New York, and
I don't know. It is very strange how I always seem to, and you'd be shocked how many hours of stories I could tell you about prominent people that I've known, that I've had interactions with, or known for different reasons. And it is like, those are amazing stories. One day we'll chat about it. But there are a lot of people that are beloved by people in the audience.
Well,
they'd be pretty fascinated, but anyway. So
luckily, I don't have to bore you with my hot dog stories right now because we do actually have some calls. However, I will say
that. That was funny.
Yeah, well, the worst part about it was like I was way too serious.
You were very serious, and I was making faces without realizing it, and then you made them into like a little video where I saw like that I was looking horrified. But the best part of that last show we did, the part that I love,
the dog. I have it clipped.
Somebody told me that their dog listens to the show when I talk and just like sits. I thought that was the greatest thing. I loved it.
Yeah, no, I actually clipped that, and we're gonna put that out because it's a good clip too. People like the clips, they do.
Did you catch what breed it was?
I don't know. It's probably something wimpy like a Cocker Spaniel or something.
I don't think Cocker Spaniels are wimpy.
Well, whatever kind of dog would pay attention to you.
Yeah, that's true.
Like it's not going to be like a bull mastiff or something. It's going to be like, let's go diagnose something. Roar. Joey H, you're on the air. Where are you calling?
Hi, can you guys?
Yes,
can you guys hear me?
Sure.
Yes.
You hear me? How are you?
Okay, great. How are both of you? I love your show. I've become very enamored with it. It's so educational, and it's I got to tell you, I literally I stay by my phone waiting to see when the lab thing pops up. You know, because you guys you don't have a routine schedule, but I do love your show, and so I want to start off by saying, Josh, Friday, your what you said about the assassination thing was it blew my mind, and just to let you know a little backstory, I was in bumper to bumper, terrible traffic. Where am I calling from? I'm on the East Coast, and it was the most horrific traffic you could imagine. I was really upset, and then your thing popped up, and it made my day. Hearing your take on it, and just how you brought it, the pilgrims and everything into it, it was brilliant, Josh. It was just brilliant. Number one, and I'm getting to you, Gary, in 1 second. I just want to finish off, Josh. I want to ask you, Josh. I don't know much about your backstory. I picked up things here and there from your podcast in the past. As I've gotten addicted to you guys. Have you seen a documentary called Morning Sun?
I have not. No.
So I would just want to recommend that documentary to you. Morning spelled MOUR, like the morning, and it's about that musician Dave Navarro who plays with the Jane Addiction. His mother was murdered by I think it was his stepfather or his or the boyfriend, and it's all about processing that. And I think you really should see that documentary. It's quite good.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I just added it to my list, and it looks very interesting. I will take a look at it. Thank you.
Yeah, take a look at it. It's about redemption and all this stuff. Okay, let's do this.
What is your name?
Yeah.
What is your name?
My name's Joey.
Oh, okay. And hi, Joey. I'm sorry about that. You're addicted to listening. Probably is a support group out there somewhere for people who are hooked on this. What do you think?
Well, Gary, Cocker Spaniels are very aggressive dogs. Those are very, very aggressive dogs.
Yeah, they can't do a lot of damage.
They're moody little bastards, if you know.
Well, that's why I said that the Cocker Spaniel would pay attention to him, because he's moody too.
I'm not moody. My mood is constant.
It's pretty stable. You're a stable guy.
I'm like super muted. Like, what are you kidding me? There could be like explosions around me, and I'm like, you know, like
Gary, you made fun of me last week, so you're gonna eat some today.
Yeah. All right, Joey, let's go.
I want to let's get into the lab. Let's put our outfits. I'm ready for this lab. All right. So Gary, I want to start off with the DSM manual for statistical, the mental disorders.
Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition,
right.
Text version being the current version. Yes. What
Correct.
About it?
So it wasn't that long ago that it was changed from the 4 to the 5, and pretty dramatic changes took place, particularly the access 1 being more of the organic illnesses, where access 2 was the more the personality disordered illness. And I always felt it made a much cleaner way of, unfortunately, labeling some of these pathologies. When that was removed in the 5, I was almost as upset as you were when you said the FBI changed serial killing to, I think, 2 bodies. So someone could go rob 2 banks, kill 2 people, and then they're labeled the serial killer.
The psychology didn't matter. It wasn't necessarily the service of abnormal psychological gratification.
Right. So I want to start off with the DSM. I want to hear your take, both of your takes on what blows me away is that with the 5, we are yet to see any acknowledgement of social media being a very prominent part of the manual. With Koberger's, with the MIT Chew, with the Columbine school shooters, with these the mythologizing and the idolization of these types of school shooters, serial killers. Koberger, obsessed with studying on his YouTube thing, they found out that he was basically almost like a obsessed with social media, and he was trying to learn how to be a serial killer using social media. So my question is, what are your feelings about that? Why do you think they have yet to acknowledge social media as a problem, as a disorder?
Well, Josh, why don't you jump in first, and then I'll respond after.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's any question in my personal opinion that social media has this whole range of, great features and then terrible features. And I sometimes I do think that the terribleness of social media outweighs the good of it. Some of the good is that instant information, you can get a message out, really quickly, depending on the size of your following and things like that. And then you can also sort of find the corner of the internet that is worse than real life because of the anonymity of it. And, people start to harbor these, fantasies and sort of like, and I'm not blaming video games and stuff like that for violence, but there's got to be some sort of correlation between things that are taken in that you put out. And
I don't want to interrupt you. Just 1 second. Ironically, the DSM-5 does acknowledge internet gaming disorder. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, and I mean, it would make sense, that there are some of these video games now are so realistic. I remember when my kids, they would want to play games. Grand Theft Auto was a really big game when my kids were young. And if you know anything about Grand Theft Auto, it's not a particularly great game for children to play. I mean, there's a lot that, there's a lot that it sort of exposes, and it's pretty realistic in the fact of you can kind of do whatever you want. It's almost like just a simulation type game. And I remember, trying to find a balance, like when are my children allowed to do this, or when aren't they? And I never really came up with a really good answer for it. However, I think that social media has some of the biggest pitfalls that a human can encounter. If you look at somebody's Instagram, you don't see the days where they're down and depressed. Typically, you don't see them, weeping because, something, they lost their job, or somebody broke up with them, or a family member, they had a fight. You see them going on vacation. You see them eating at nice restaurants. You see, so there's a huge facade going on when it comes to social media. Not everybody puts their most authentic parts out. And I think that it also breeds a lot of jealousy because people don't really understand, the people that have it show it off, and the people that don't sit there and lust after it, I guess you could say. So I do think that there is a correlation. I'm not an expert on any of that, but I absolutely do think that social media has a huge upside and a probably even bigger downside for society.
Yeah, but again, my focus is on a disorder, on having Reddit, Koberger, the Roger, Elliot Roger. These people have relationships with anonymous communities of others, which, in my opinion, creates almost like a group thing, a disorder in and of itself with others. That you create a fantasy life, and then you act this out. And I'm shocked that we don't have these disorders in any kind of book. Yeah,
Well,
it blows my mind.
Well, to follow up really quick, like with the boys from Columbine, the internet was particularly newish. It wasn't like it is now, but there were online forums. Eric Harris was particularly active in a lot of those forums.
Yes, he was.
Doom was a big video game. It was, at the time, it was like one of the biggest computer games, and it was graphic in nature. They attributed Natural Born Killers as their favorite movies, or as their favorite movie. They attributed Doom and Duke as their favorite video games. And Eric was a deeply, deeply disturbed human who ended up meeting a kid that was also very disturbed and sort of drug him into his madness, because he was sort of but then he got into the online forum groups. Matter of fact, they were posting names of kids that they wanted to kill. And it was the internet was such in its infancy that the FBI couldn't actually go and pull that off of there the way that they can now, because it was just very, very low tech type. A kid named Brooks Brown's parents actually turned them in, and because of it. So I hear what you're saying, and they all seem to kind of live a fantasy driven life that culminates in this end game. Elliot Rogers, same way. And but I don't know exactly what kind of disorder that would be, but I do know that there is a big correlation between those type of killers and
you also brought up this Instagram thing where I guess they just recently, a couple of days ago, I think it was 150 selfies that Koberger had taken of himself. I mean, the narcissism, the stuff going on with Instagram and the pathology I think we've gotten to a point where we really need to start really taking a closer look at giving labels to some of this stuff. But anyway, Gary, I want to hear what you got to say.
Well, first of all, the reason that isn't designated as some sort of specific diagnostic category is that it would be redundant. There are already existing categories, and that would simply be some kind of granular subtype that falls under it. For example, if a person is driven by an impulse control disorder or obsessive compulsive disorder, or perhaps even a fetish or some kind of fetishistic disorder, something like that. In other words, there would be an umbrella diagnostic category, and that would be a kind of subtype unique to the person. It's the same reason that every phobia doesn't have its own category, right? So, like a person with a phobia who's afraid of snakes is not going to get labeled with that particular phobia. It'll be labeled with specific phobia. In other words, there's an umbrella category, and then it would fall under that. Now,
so are you saying so a porn addict would fall under this umbrella you're talking about? A porn addiction would fall under some kind of a compulsive umbrella?
Fall under an existing category depending upon what's driving it. If it's a fetish, if it's a paraphilia, if it's an obsessive compulsive situation, if it's an impulse control problem, it could even be that it's something that's just driven by drug use, and it's one of the psychosocial problems that falls under somebody's substance use disorder or alcohol use disorder. In other words, it's going to fall under whatever the umbrella category is that is driving it, or that is the sort of overarching category into which it falls.
Like an addictive personality?
Well, there are a whole bunch I've listed that could be, but there are a lot of options. Now, let's say, to sort of touch on your other point about how this could be driving crime. Now, it is true that people who are fantasy driven can be stimulated by essentially any visual or fantasy based kind of material, whether it's magazines, the internet, videos, even just dreaming about a crime, drawing it, whatever. And so certainly you could have a kind of stimulation in a person who is fantasy driven. And I do think with Koberger, since you raised him as an example, there was viewing of pornography that had non-consensual themes, things like that. One could make a very interesting comparison between the themes of the pornography that seemed to interest him and Ted Bundy, whom I believe he had a very strong special interest in, although he did look at a lot of offenders, not just Bundy, but no one as much as Bundy, to my knowledge. And the other thing is that I do believe that the brain does not really understand the difference between something that it is seeing that is simulated and something that is real. And a person could become desensitized by constantly experiencing something over and over again that is violent until, these sort of protective mechanisms set in and you start to dissociate or numb or whatever. The problem is that when you actually look at the literature on, let's say, video games and things like that, you wind up with really equivocal results. You cannot show a clear relationship where a person who is into that stuff is going out and committing real world violence, because there are millions of people who watch it that never commit violence. So what happens is you might have a couple of people who play video games and then commit violence, but there's this astronomical number that play video games and wouldn't hurt a fly. So that what it might be is that you need the intersection of a certain type of brain, a certain type of personality, and anything. It doesn't even have to be video games. It could be life events. It could be pornography. It could be what's going on in the house. It could be whatever. And then that sets the match to the straw or desensitizes or excites the person. But the idea that they collectively desensitize the general public would be a stretch, because you would have. You're right.
Let me further my argument. In film and cinema and television, we have episodic shows now, right?
Sure.
So the attention span of the viewer is totally different now due to TikTok, due to social media. So that is evidence and proof that there are changes happening in society and with people's psyches, teenagers that grow up to be adults. There is something going on with social media that is changing
I think
our behavior.
What you're pointing out that is interesting is that either social media is a reflection of a trend or is a cause of a trend, or both. But what I think it is that we have trained our brains to sort of fire dopamine based on these very rapid little snippets of things that we are, watching. And so, and also there's a dopamine rush that comes with someone liking your photo. That little bell that goes off when someone likes something has made us sort of Pavlovian, where the bell goes off and we probably get a dopamine rush, knowing that someone's interested in us. Oh, someone likes me, that kind of thing. And I think probably what this is doing is training the brain to have a difficult time sustaining attention. Now, I will say, having worked with young people, that one thing that is anecdotally clear to me, that I can see, that seems to have a kind of face validity, is that young people have awful attention spans now. If you don't make something very visual and very stimulating, they won't learn it. They won't be interested in it. And if you were to say to a very young child now, I want you to read this book that's this big, good luck. Watch the movie version, and even then, the YouTube sped up version.
Let me jump in really quick, because whenever I send something to my son Peyton, he goes, "That's 3 minutes long," and I said, "Yeah," and you're going, I go, "So what?" And he goes, "Man, that's long." He thinks but he's not the only one. All the children think that.
Not all, but it's a trend.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. Most kids, but he always goes, "Oh, 3 minutes." So, life is a lot of life now is based off of instant gratification, like that
Yeah,
dopamine that you're saying.
and not being able to inhibit impulses.
And
And
there is something to be said about postponing gratification,
of course,
like earning it, or, working for it. Not just this instant, like you said, this instant dopamine of
right.
this rush of, oh, I'm loved, my stuff was liked. When I started doing these kinds of shows, Dr. Gary, I had 6 people watching.
Yeah, it takes time. I
My
mean,
dopamine wasn't very high then.
right now, what, 7?
Yeah, there's like 7 or 8.
No, it's just busting. No, but I do think that part of the problem is that to love people requires inhibition. It requires shutting off your impulses and tolerating boredom and so forth. I mean, if you really start to understand the way that the inability to self-inhibit and self-deny is becoming sort of a sort of epidemic, you start to understand why relationships fall apart very quickly, and as soon as anything isn't perfect, you walk out, and that kind of thing, because it's all about this fantasy that you're going to achieve perfect happiness and gratification and swim in dopamine and oxytocin, and everything's going to be terrific. But that's not what love is. Love is not moonlight canoes. It's hard times and sticking with each other through that and all of that. So I just think it's an interesting point, but it will be very difficult to empirically study. But if you look at it through the eyes of common sense, it is very clear that there is some kind of problem with inhibition that is affecting the average person. That's why I think personalities are changing, and the average person is becoming a lot more narcissistic, a lot more fragmented, a lot more impulsive, and so forth. And as a consequence, you're seeing an increase in a lot of aggression. I have no doubt that is rooted in changes in the personality that are happening for a lot of reasons. If it was purely biological, it would be static across all cultures and all time, right? It would just be the same everywhere because it's just in the biology. But that's not what you're saying. What you're saying is, like, in certain cultures, there are explosions of certain types of offenses. And I think it also doesn't help that we don't have any idols anymore. I mean, even the people in the upper echelons of society are, like ids with feet that are just sort of doing whatever they feel like doing with no consequences. And there's no one to admire. So there's no one to sort of say, like, I look to this teacher figure and say, I want to imitate them. It's very, very hard to find an authority figure now that isn't just operating on sheer impulse or cruelty, to be honest with you. And so that's a problem because we also need people to imitate. And some people don't even have that in the home. You don't even have a parental figure to imitate. So I think you raise a very interesting point, but we want to be careful, of course, because I am a scientist. I like to submit things to empirical study, and this would be a very difficult thing to empirically study. But I don't think there could be any question that social media in particular and the internet are contributing to a problem with needing things very quickly, with self-inhibition, and also, I think, with being able to split fantasy from reality. Because you can manufacture a world that is not real for yourself. You can have what Jung called an inflated ego, where you actually start to think you are the persona that you are playing in your social media. I have known people that fall in love with themselves as a social media figure, and in life, when you know them, they think that they are constantly being watched by a camera and are acting like that character instead of being a real person. And also, I think it does a great deal of damage for people to look at those fake worlds and think that anyone actually lives that way. That people walk around, in a bikini all day long with palm trees behind them and fantastic and don't have 1 ounce of body fat, or have perfectly symmetrical faces, or not
God, I know that feeling.
line, kind of thing. It's very silly, and to be honest with you, boring. Because I just think, because the internet has made the world so small, people sort of say, well, why should I settle down with somebody living in my town? there's billions of people and I have access to them. I want to find the most perfect one. And so people to stand out have to be over the top. They have to do things that make them the one that you choose out of the billions that you have access to. So, whatever happened to the guy next door, he's got a funny tooth, but he's the nicest guy in the town, he's the only one for a few miles, that I can have a nice conversation with. Let me settle down. Those days are over. And so that's a problem too. Now, I don't want to take a huge, sledgehammer to everything technological, because there are also pluses to this. For example, this show, bringing me and Josh together like this and being able to do this, the idea of being able to do a call in, people being able to comment, the idea that we can go to, a search engine right now and immediately bring up information on anything. These are indications that technology can have good uses. But I wrote a whole book, with Michael Stone on the idea that part of this new evil is the abuse of technology. So I really appreciate the question. I hope you'll read The New Evil. I think based on your...
I am reading. I told you last time. Yeah.
Oh, that you're the same person who wrote last time.
I'm that guy.
You're that guy.
I have one more question for both of you, because I'm really curious to hear both of your take. And if we could start with Josh on this, I'm very curious, and I want to pull I don't want to say his name, but I'm going to say it. I want to pull a Charlie Kirk right now and say, prove me wrong. This is what I want. This Papa Roger thing. Just hear me out, and then I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. After that 150 selfie dump of Koberger, basically studying his facial structure,
Right.
and the Reddits that he had, and that avatar that the police at that first press conference after he pled guilty, whatever, they said, no, we have no evidence that it was him. I say it's him. The fact that he studied himself that much, the fact that it's almost a replica meme. His dream goal as a child was to be a park ranger. And it's a ranger. Don't shake your head. Yeah, I'll finish. And
I'm not shaking my head.
The police with the forensics, they initially said he had no ties to the girls and to the kids. Now they have uncovered that the Wi-Fi was linked. His phone Wi-Fi was linked to the Mad Greek, where two of the girls worked, where he absolutely surely encountered them, as he argued with staff about his vegan pizza. So yeah, what do you guys think, man? Do you guys think? Oh, and one last thing. When the Papa Roger Reddit was pulled when he was in Pennsylvania, right as he started looking to sell the Elantra. He was looking for car dealerships to sell the Elantra and get a new car. And that same day, boom, the Reddit was pulled down. Anyway, do you guys think that he is Papa Roger? Wow, go ahead.
I can't believe no proof.
Who the hell is it then? Come on.
Can I? Is it all right if I answer this quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't
specifically requested your response. Number one, in the examination of the phone, to my knowledge, there wasn't one single not a jot of proof that he was even interested in Elliot Rodger. Number two, the motivation of Koberger does not seem to have anything to do with being an incel. That is a myth that was perpetuated in literature and by the news, in my opinion, but had no basis in fact that I can find. First of all, I don't know him to have studied Elliot Rodger personally or in school. And the other thing is, with Elliot Rodger, the idea is Elliot Rodger was somebody who found himself very attractive and resented that people did not want him. Koberger is somebody who had dates, connected with women, but was so bizarre that it didn't work out, or he wound up being hostile to them. He was a misogynist, it appears. The idea is not that he could not get a date. He was just nasty and weird on them or when connecting with people. And the thing is, you want to understand that what Koberger was interested in is people who killed women, not people who, where you're just saying, like, I'm so gorgeous and I hate the people that aren't attracted to me. It's like he's watching pornography and reading about killers where the theme is non-consensual domination, control, and manipulation of women with grotesque things happening to them. Okay, like in the pornography, the women are drugged. That's probably because it makes them look dead. Okay,
Yeah, but Gary,
necrophile. You get where I'm going with this? In the
yeah, but hold on.
pornography, in the people, the long list of people that he was interested in, that he was researching, the sexually motivated serial killers in there did absolutely grotesque things to women, to bodies. A number of them were necrophiles. A number of them were rapists. A number of them. So what I'm saying is there's a difference between somebody who is mad because they can't get a date and all they want to do is kill you, run you over, shoot you, whatever, and a person that I think wanted to force themselves sexually on a person, but it never happened because everything got interrupted. And I really do think that's probably what was going on in the Coburg situation. There was probably a sexual motivation that got disrupted. That's very different than a person who says, I'm mad at women and I'm mad at the women, that the men that like them, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to hurt them. And
Gary, I agree. I agree with you 1,000%.
good.
But hold on. But the Papa Rogers thing I'm talking about is about the Reddit site where it had nothing to do with incel philosophy or theory.
Okay,
It was a character who called himself Papa Roger.
I know all about it intimately. I've talked about it in a million places.
He talked about the sheath. He was trying to gaslight about the white Elantra car. He was talking about specific things that nobody would know these things unless you were immediately involved in the. He was talking about the stuff before the public and before some of the police department. I think in Idaho didn't even know about some of the stuff that particular person was speaking about. Nothing about incel. Nothing about
nobody has found evidence of that. Nobody has come out and said, "Oh, we tracked the computer and we figured out that this person." That hasn't happened.
So who could it have been, Gary? Who could that have been?
When I did the profile of Koberger before he was even caught, with Chris McDonough and Dean Jackson and Greg Cooper and Ann Burgess on the interview room, somebody in the comments said, "Oh, he's going to be arrested in Pennsylvania." And then he was. Okay. Now, how did somebody know that? Could have been a person involved in the investigation who was leaking. It could have been a person who was enjoying the fact that they had inside information and was busting to share it. Who knows? But the point is, there is no proof that he was Elliot Rodger. And as far as I'm concerned, it is a collapsed myth. I don't see any evidence of it. What it looks like is that he was very interested in porn, like serial killers would be interested in, because it was violent and sexual, right? That his themes were violent sex and non-consensual sex, and he was interested in a variety of offenders, virtually all of whom were sexually motivated serial killers. So it is very, very difficult to see him as being interested in anything in the way Rodger was, and there's also no proof that electronically that was him. So I think of it as a sort of it sounded good, but it doesn't hold up. That's how I feel about it. But I think it's an interesting question, because what you're basically saying is, well, then where are all the connections coming from? I don't know. That's something time will have to tell. But just because there are connections between things doesn't mean that they're it's like saying cats have tails and dogs have tails, so cats are dogs. There can be connections between things that doesn't mean, they necessarily are one and the same or go together. But I really like the questions you're asking.
Yeah, Joey, thank you for your call. And
we're going to questions, and I'm sure we'll hear from you again, because you bristle with so much curiosity.
Yeah, no, he's a great caller.
That I really like it, but I'm telling you, my opinion is that he was not Papa Roger. But I can certainly understand why you would think it. And I can also understand the idea of thinking of Koberger as somebody, which I said in the profile, would insinuate himself, inveigle himself into the press and into the world to manipulate the story. That is something I think he probably was doing. We know he was watching shows about himself, but we don't have any evidence that he was actually going in there and sharing information, probably because he would know that it was a stupid thing to do, that it could help capture him. But anyway, so thank you for the call. Really, I appreciate it so much.
Yeah,
Okay,
great.
okay, that was a good call, Josh.
This is a
I
great call.
like Joey's
I do
excitement.
too. Hope he calls back again. Caller, where are you calling from, and what's your name?
Calvin Coolidge.
Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Where are you calling from? What's your name?
Oh, Southern California. My name is Lisa.
Nice to meet you, Lisa.
So I had a question for Dr. Gary about a documentary that just came out. I think it was last week, where it was actually showing Oxygen with Detective Kenneth Maines, who worked on the Joseph Nassau case. And I was just wondering if you knew about him or if you actually interviewed him before.
No, to be honest, I haven't seen the documentary and don't know much about what it was about. Why don't you tell us what the documentary said?
So basically, it's about Joseph Nassau, who was a serial killer in California. He had confessed to killing, I think, 10 women. They knew about 4, and Detective Maines was able to find the other 6 just through a death row inmate. I think his name is Noguera. I forget his first name. He was actually in San Quentin with Nassau, and he was explaining to him all the stories and all the victims. And Detective Maines was able to connect 6 missing people to those last victims that he had murdered. But I guess he also confessed to killing a total of 26 women. But they don't have any idea of who those other women might be.
Well, whenever somebody calls in about a serial killer, Josh puts the, this is our new thing lately. He puts the Wikipedia page up for the offender and then sort of reviews it because the audience might be interested in the background. There's another one. You can tell this is another one with these mug shots that wouldn't do too well on, Bumble. So Josh, look at that guy.
I know.
It's terrifying. He looks like that eagle Muppet. Do you remember that Muppet that's got that sort of beak and that blue? He's blue and always kind of lecturing you about the United States. He's got that kind of look. He's very scary looking. So why don't you?
He's not the best.
Through. Yeah.
Yes, Nassau was born January 7th, 1934, Rochester, New York. After serving in the United States Air Force in the 1950s, he met his first wife. Their marriage lasted 18 years, but after the divorce, Nassau continued visiting his ex-wife, who lived in the San Francisco Bay Area. The couple had a son who later developed schizophrenia, and Nassau spent his later years caring for him. Nassau took classes in various San Francisco colleges in the 1970s and lived in the Mission District of San Francisco and then Piedmont, California in the 1980s. Lived in Sacramento between 1990 and 2003 and finally settled in Reno, Nevada in 2004, where he was arrested in 2011. He had worked as a freelance photographer, had a long history of petty crimes such as shoplifting, which he committed even in his mid-70s. His acquaintances nicknamed him Crazy Joe for his behavior. And it seems as though he has quite a list. Let's see how many victims. So they say between 7 and 26 plus. They're obviously not really sure, but he was apprehended 2011. And
but it's important that if information is coming from this person who, is clearly, somebody who has very, questionable morals, we don't know if this person is telling the truth. The question is, how many cases has he been forensically linked to? That we know for sure, because people of this type can boast that they have a higher victim count, and because they're proud.
Yeah, and I've always kind of noticed that too with serial killers, is that like if a lot of them like to kind of yank the chain of like law enforcement investigators and say, I have information about this, or I know where these bodies, and that where you see here where, so he's convicted of first degree murder with special circumstances, 4 counts, and theft. And he did receive the death penalty, but I think he's still alive, isn't he?
I think he's like 90.
He's 91 years old.
Yeah, I know just a little bit about this offender, but I did not see the documentary. But I assume the point of the documentary was to try to link him to additional murders. Is that the point of what the program was about?
Yes, they actually linked him to 6, the total of 10 that he admitted to.
So they actually found proof that he committed those, like forensically proved it? So
through police reports and his confessions about the information that nobody else knew.
Interesting. And what is your understanding of what he, because with offenders who repetitively kill women, and I think the victims were women, right?
Yes.
Of all different.
He was actually like an Alcala, where he was a photographer, and he got women saying that he would pay them money for modeling, and then he ended up kidnapping and killing them. So he also had also was most of his victims had a double initial with the same or their first and last name were the same first letter.
That's why they called him the double initial killer, right?
Correct.
Wasn't that his moniker? Well, but I also remember about him something I remember finding interesting about him, but I admit that I don't know the case very intimately, is that his victimology is interesting because the victims were all over the map in age. In other words, he wasn't like going out only killing women in their teens or 20s. That like there was at least one victim in the 50s, right? Like he was sort of everywhere on the map with age, right?
He was. I don't know what the range was though on the youngest or to the oldest.
Right. Well, I know that there was one victim that was a teenager, that was 19, if I remember, and then there was one that went all the way up to, I think, late 50s or something. And, so it's quite a range. And I think what that implies is that really all that was necessary was for the person to be female and sort of available, having fallen into his web. And it raises the question of why there was such an overarching hatred of women. And so that it really didn't matter how old they were. Usually when you're fantasy driven, you picture a very particular type of person and you go out and you cast your fantasy.
Yeah.
And this is looser. So it might have just been that he was an equal opportunity hater of women.
Dr. Gary, have you ever seen a person that even when they were young, they look old?
Yes.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, it's true. How old is he in this photo? Please.
I don't know. They said this was taken somewhere in the 60s.
Yeah. Well, but he has features that would be suggestive of, let's just say it would be interesting to see if he met criteria for psychopathy. It would be interesting to see, what particular perversions he might have had.
He looks better here.
He looks kind of like a tag, when you get a skin tag. Like his neck looks like you know what I mean? Like sort of like the
look, he's an ugly son.
That the dermatologist would sever or tie a string around.
Tie a string around it.
Sort of tag head.
Wait for the blood flow.
Like a skin tag.
He does look like a skin tag, yeah. And you know what? That's actually a perfect analogy for him too. I mean, he's a skin tag on the underarm of society.
It's hideous. He really is. I mean, because his face is so expressionless and kind of evil looking. And you have to imagine that he would have had to have won the confidence of people, to get them to go with him with the photograph ruse. I mean, at least with Alcala, I can sort of picture it, him being sort of, as weird as he was. I could see him being charming. And so,
and I don't even feel bad about talking about him.
Would you have gone with this guy?
No.
Like home to take a photo or whatever?
You asking me?
Well, I mean, I'm asking the caller.
Oh.
No, definitely not. And
what would have given you the heebie-jeebies about it?
What, do you got enough time?
Yeah.
The skin tag reference will do
everything, really. Everything. His eyes, especially.
Yeah, he's a very scary looking.
Not
person.
very friendly.
Yeah.
That's-
Well, there must have been something about him that had a charm, or maybe what it is that he was so unassuming that you thought you could trust him. You know, that's what I always found so disturbing about Albert Fish. Albert Fish is somebody I wrote about in the New Evil, and what horrified me, the thing that always gave me the creeps so badly about Albert Fish, is that he was so avuncular, so like a withered old relative that you would, that would buy you a balloon at the fair, that he didn't look like somebody that would do the kinds of things he did, strip down naked and, mutilate you and eat you. There was something about his grandfatherly quality, and there's something about that type of offender that just looks like the guy next door. That's the same horror that I have about Dorothea Puente, the elderly woman that was killing all the old men in the boarding house to take their checks and then burying them out in the yard to fertilize the avocado tree. And then people would come and say, "What a beautiful tree," and she'd say, "Yep, sure is," but there was like festering bodies in the yard, and she'd look like a little old grandmother. And there's something about that is sort of disturbing to me, that type.
Yeah.
But anyway, so people
I
are
appreciate-
amused that I
appreciate the
used the word
phone
avuncular.
I mean, it honestly, it shocked me too.
You don't know the word avuncular?
No, avuncular. I'm talking about the skin tag.
Oh, okay.
That stuck with me.
Well, wonders never cease. Well, anyway, so I really appreciate the call. I think it sounds like I should watch the documentary.
Yes, it was pretty interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
appreciate
And,
the phone
I
call.
really appreciate it. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Josh. Can you figure out my YouTube name, Asul Crew? I'm sure you can based on your hat.
San Diego.
Nope.
Wait.
The fact that she's asking you and not asking me must have something to do with sports.
It is, and that's just, it's a college football team, correct?
Oh, Blue Crew.
God.
Azul in Spanish is blue.
Yeah.
Blue Crew.
That's terrible. But we won today, and you didn't.
Finally you won. Yeah.
I know. Dodgers have been dominating us. There's a San Diego team. I think it's is that is their name for their college football team. But yeah, I've noticed the Dodgers have been playing around with that, and they suck, and they're probably not going to win the World Series. Thank God.
Oh no, I agree. They did not have a good season at all this year.
They'll be all right. They're always good, but I appreciate it.
No idea what you two are talking about. If there were some kind of
Baseball.
ripcord that I could pull right now,
Yeah.
I would pull it. I
I would,
feel like
and I would
yeah,
love to
you'd
watch
pull
them
it.
shoot right through the roof.
Yes, I know you'd want me to, but I feel almost like I do at parties when people start having this conversation. I just slip away
That's
and
good.
go over to the. Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I
Okay.
appreciate it. It's always fun listening to people speak in a foreign language together.
It's
Well,
English.
Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Take care of yourself.
Very nice. Yeah,
I don't understand.
you
These
got to
things.
watch a baseball game sometime. Let's see. Caller, go ahead. Where are you calling
Oh,
from?
I think like bats.
Your name. Hi.
This is the most terrifying moment of my life.
Really?
Are we talking to a GoBot?
I'm not sure.
What is going on? This is what in the Star Wars Cantina bar is happening right now.
I'm not sure.
It sounds like a parrot being electrocuted. You need to end this call. I can't deal with it.
Okay.
Well, okay. Thanks.
That's a great call. Thank
I
you.
want a cracker.
Okay.
What on earth are we? Okay, next.
All right. Let's see. Melissa, where are you calling from, Melissa?
I'm calling from Tennessee.
Hey. Sorry, did you hear that last call? It was a good one.
Yeah,
you
I
repeat it
think the parrot analogy was pretty good on that.
The electrocuted
The
parrot.
electrocuted play. Yeah.
Hang in there, Kansas City. We'll figure it out.
like
Oh, goodness.
like it was a parrot in a cage somewhere calling for help.
Yes.
Exactly. It had like a medical alert bracelet.
Oh goodness. Yeah. Kind of.
Well, all
Oh,
right. Back to
well, I
Earth.
just want to say hello to both of you guys,
Hello.
and hope you all have had a good weekend. Yeah, it's winding down. I'm just sitting here with 2 of my 4 dogs in my lap, so it's a
Oh,
good evening.
I'm sure they all love Dr. Gary. Are they Cocker Spaniels?
They are poodles, actually, toy poodles.
Same thing.
So, good
You have
dogs, though. I
4
love them.
poodles?
I have 4.
Wow.
Yeah, and my daughter has a standard poodle, so which is the
So
big
there's
one.
5
So
poodles in the house.
there's 4, yeah, here. But there's 4 little ones. I have the little ones, and my daughter has a standard.
Like the teacup ones?
Yeah, the little ones, yeah.
My
where,
sister has
where are you calling from?
Tennessee.
Oh, from Tennessee. Are you calling about the cases that tend to come up when people are calling from Tennessee?
Well, no, I know Summer's case. I live in the vicinity there, close to where she's from.
Uh,
Um, 1 county over. So I remember seeing it the night that it was on the
well,
local news. So
here's
I've been there on that one since day one.
yeah,
Um,
I've been very impressed by Josh and Chris have really, when the story is written of the Summer Wells case, there's no denying that Josh and Chris have really contributed to the story, contributed to the narrative.
yeah.
So there's your guy if you want to, well, or I think the other direction. Wait, hold on. How do I get it to? Oh, there you go. Okay. No, what is going on? There you go. I feel like the scarecrow. There, this guy. Thank you, Josh. That made it make a lot more sense. Yes, thank you.
I'm
Okay.
lost.
It's like when you use a microscope and to get things to move that way, you have to. Okay. So
Yeah.
now that I've completely confused myself, that person who was there and then moved and is now in a black box with a white circle in the middle is
Yeah.
the person and is speaking like a
Mm.
spirit box is the person that one of the people that I think has contributed most in the on YouTube, let's say, to discussing that case. So what do you want to ask
Well,
about?
I didn't call in to discuss Summer's case, actually.
Sure.
I called in to discuss something totally different. And I just wanted
Great.
your general opinion, and of course, Josh, yours as well. Okay. Um, I am a proud adoptive parent. Okay.
Oh,
And they are all, I have 2 children. They are both grown in their 30s. And we had a private adoption uh, for our first child because we had lost 3 children, 2 of them in the second trimester. And the doctor had told me no more babies. So we went down the adoption route.
oh, I see.
And so we ended up we were on a waiting list for a while, and got this baby, took her home from the hospital, and just fell in love with her. And when she was 11 months old, I found out I was pregnant again. And, through the grace of God and some very good physicians, I I was able to carry the 4th pregnancy to
Oh,
term. Well, not to term, 7 months, and she was very tiny. She weighed 2 pounds and 14 ounces. My question is this, because we, even like 30 years, over 30 years now, I, when we adopted her, we had always decided that we were going to tell her and be very upfront with her from the time that she was old enough to understand that um, that she was adopted, from the time that she could wrap her brain how tiny or how old she was around it. And of course, my in-laws and my parents were not happy about that. They're like, "Why don't you wait till she's a little older, and tell her then?" And my theory on that was like, I don't know. I feel like I will be lying to her for 7 or 8 years and then sitting her down and being like, "Well, you know, this isn't exactly what you think it is," and I'd heard people say that they did this, and I just couldn't do that. And so, my opinion, I mean, we obviously told her, and I'll tell you how young she was. But what is your mentality on that with adopted children? Do you think they should always know they're adopted? Do you think that you should wait until they're a certain age to
I
tell
mean,
them?
that is a great question.
it's a great question and it's such a profoundly personal one that there really is no black
Yes.
and white answer.
Right, right.
I have to tell you that, this falls under the umbrella of like that I can't directly address.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah,
Clinical, right? But I would
right.
say in general terms, I'm going to imagine if I were an adoptive
If you were, yeah, if you
parent,
if it was you,
general
yeah.
terms, the way I feel about it is that a mother or a father is not necessarily the person that gives birth to you. It's the person that
Oh,
loves you
absolutely.
and
Yes.
raises you and cares about you and says, text me when you get home so I know you're
Mhm.
safe.
Mhm.
And, is there with you when you walk down the aisle and
Yes.
holds you
And
their
the birth of their first child, I
that's
got to
right. In
see.
other words,
Yes, yes.
that is a mother
Yeah.
or a father. And as far
Yes.
as I'm concerned, this hang up that people have about like, did I actually birth you biologically or did it I don't know what that's about for people. There's a lot of different reasons why people have those mixed feelings about it. But I
Mhm.
think that my sense would be that it's better to tell somebody younger than older because if
Mhm.
a person has lived 20, 30 years believing that they are the biological offspring and then you tell them, they can
Yes.
feel kind of like, like their whole worldview has been torn apart,
That's
and
how we felt. Yeah.
yeah, I think telling someone younger and sort of taking the attitude of like, you're loved just like all the other kids. There's really no difference. And it's very important. And as far as I'm concerned, I think is a very beautiful thing because the truth is that in the crapshoot of life, you saved this child's life. You gave them a wonderful life.
Yes, and so did her birth mother
There
gave
you
us
and
a wonderful life. It goes both ways, you
that's
know.
Well,
beautiful.
So thankful for her.
I
That's
my
beautiful.
my
God bless you for that.
well, my grandfather who raised me was my grandmother's second husband. So him and I, we were not blood related in any way, shape, or form. Uh, that being said, I obviously I knew where I came from because
Mhm.
of everything that was, but I didn't really know a whole lot about like my past until or my parents passed until I got older, and um, I just think that it's I just don't think that you should hide who who somebody is. Uh,
Mhm.
and it's a very delicate thing because
It is.
adoptive parents who do not look at themselves as adoptive parents, and they shouldn't. I mean, they
No,
take
we're
on full
parents.
responsibility for the life of a child. And my grandfather, who I called grandpa, or I called him pa, and
Mhm.
he called me son. He would,
Mhm.
just how he would refer to me. He'd say son, and uh, it was a very father son relationship. I considered him my father. Um,
Mhm.
my dad, I mean, he was my grandfather who raised me. I didn't have a dad, in my life.
I
So
I know your story. Yes,
yeah,
well.
and
Yeah.
so I just think that being honest with the person, especially with the younger, the better. I would think
I
too.
think so too.
Yeah,
And I'll tell you how young she was. She was because I was pregnant, because I got pregnant when she was 11 months old. So it was about a couple of months before I delivered her
Mm.
the younger sister, and she noticed my stomach and she pulled my shirt up and she spoke her name and she said, so and so in there, like, was I in there, and I said, no, baby, you weren't. And that was our first interaction with starting to put together her story, essentially. Um, I just said, no, baby, you weren't. You came to us a different way. Keep in mind, she's 14 months old. So, and as time grew and she became like 2 and 3, at night she would say, tell me my story. That's what she wanted to hear when she would go to bed. I said, okay. I would tell her her story. And, we just felt like it was always the right thing to do. She always knew that she was adopted from the time that, like I said, that she was old enough to understand anything about anything. She knew. And so I always told her dad and I, when she started school, that it was her decision whether she chose to share with her friends that she was adopted. You know, it wasn't, we weren't going to say, you can't go and tell, but it's up to you if you do tell. You know, if you want to tell your friends, you can. So, I just saw a comment that said she grew in my heart. I said, I have no doubt that God placed her there for
Hey.
me because she looks just like me.
Oh,
She sounds just like me on the phone. My husband can't tell us apart. And he's over there
You
going, "Oh
imprinted
yeah."
you
And
imprinted
we like the same books. And the little one that I birthed, I swear they gave me the wrong baby. It's just funny how that, and I love them both. They're both just gifts from God in different
and you don't
ways.
feel any different about either one of them, I'm sure.
No, they're just my kids. I honestly forget that she's adopted. And just what I thought, I'm going to ask this tonight because I didn't know if people would want to hear it or not. But I thought I just wanted to hear your all's perspective because for
yeah.
us, it was just important for her to know. And we also told her as she got up to about 12 or 13 that, she had a folder that her biological mother had typed out for her
Mhm.
that gave her
I see.
access. Yeah, it just told why she did what she did. She had a medical condition, nothing that
Oh,
my daughter can pass along. So
mhm,
she knew she couldn't take care of her,
mhm.
and the father was not in the picture. And so
I see.
it would have been, it was obviously in her best interest to
Mm.
be taken, to go put her up for adoption. So
Yeah,
um
do you, it's interesting. I don't know. Do you have any particular spiritual background?
Yes, I do believe in Jesus. He's my savior. I have
Right.
a wonderful relationship with him, and he
Hmm.
has gotten me through a lot of things. Losing babies is not easy. One of the, 18 weeks was one I lost and went through labor,
Oh, I'm so
delivered
sorry.
a son. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, but when she came along, it eased all those burdens, and I realized why I went through that because
Right.
I it's like, I don't want to think of losing those children as what had to happen for me to become a mother, but I believe that God has a plan, and
Sure.
this was His plan, and so He gave me
Do you realize that the whole salvation of the world depended upon a plan that involved a foster parent?
absolutely. I've
Saint
said
Joseph, Saint Joseph
we
was a
we have
foster parent.
often used that analogy with her. Is that Jesus was essentially the first adopted child. I mean, he was you know
And where was he born?
he was born in Bethlehem, right?
In a
In
manger.
a manger, yeah, yeah,
And
in a
guess
manger.
who showed up there to that
Uh,
manger? The
yeah,
wise.
the wise men and the shepherds.
Guess who
Yes,
brought the wise men? The
the
king.
star.
He's going to tell his camel story again. I know where he's
Oh
going.
no, we're not going down the camel road again.
Dear Lord. You know what? You know what? I've said this elsewhere, but one of the things I always think about at Christmas time, like when I look at a presepio, at a nativity scene,
Yeah.
creche, is this thought. It's an interesting thing to meditate on. Imagine Jesus in the crib, and we Christians believe, of course, that he's God, and Christ and the Holy Spirit, sort of all in one, right? And this baby, and you have to imagine God condescending so much that he would put himself in the form of this baby speaking in gibberish, right? Although in the Muslim scriptures it says that Jesus spoke from the crib, but in the Bible it doesn't say anything about that. And so Jesus is in the crib and he's looking up at the stars.
Hmm.
He created them.
Yes.
Isn't that a fascinating
It
image? Like
is.
the idea of like I made these, but I'm putting myself in the form of this little baby that's sort of looking at them with wonder. That
Yeah,
fascinates me, that kind of thing. And but anyway, I think that it's such a beautiful story that you're calling it to tell. I will tell you that from my training, from the literature I am aware of, although small children are not my area clinically, although I
yeah,
worked with some,
yeah.
is that I believe that the experts generally do agree with my point about that the earlier the better in
I
terms of
agree.
sharing, and
Hmm.
and that. you should also, if I remember, they also say something like that you have to understand that it's going to be like a lifelong conversation, that it could
Absolutely.
come up at
Yeah.
any time, and you always have to take the same attitude of kind of being understanding and explaining
Hmm.
and so forth, and also not being uncomfortable if the child wants to know the story of where their biological parents or connect with biological relatives, like through a
Right.
genealogy database or
Hmm.
whatever. But I just think it's a very beautiful thing. This idea of being a adoptive parent, and I really admire you as a person and as a parent, as a very lucky child.
I'm just a very lucky parent, and I
Yeah,
felt like
you're all lucky.
as she grew, her dad and she became very involved in sports in fourth grade. Particularly volleyball was her sport, and
Oh,
then we know. I mean, just simple little things like her birth mother had said, I can't take care of her, so I need someone to take care of her. So we were able to give her I said, she had braces to straighten her teeth. She had, she played competitive volleyball, and she even played in college. So, we could travel volleyball. We hauled her all over the Eastern Seaboard, from and just the things I sit and ponder on it sometimes and think,
yeah,
how that I think that we were blessed and she was blessed too to be able to have a family that could do that for her. And
yes, so beautiful.
that but she did ask, we told her that when I think she was about 13, you do have some things from your birth mother, and whenever you're ready to want them, you let us know, because we kept them in a safe, because in case of fire or whatever, it was fireproof. And so I think she was around 16 and she asked for them, and I said okay. So I went and got them. And one of the things was a cassette tape with an audio recording. Believe it or not, my one of the vehicles we had at that time still had a cassette player on it. And I told her, I said, I think the only vehicle that has a cassette is the Highlander, and it was in the garage. And she said, okay. And she started off that way. And inside my heart was breaking. I'm not gonna lie, But so she goes out there and she looks back and she said, aren't you coming? And I was like, I didn't expect her to want me to come with her, but I said, "Of course, if you want me to." And she said, "Yeah, I do." So we sat out there and we cried for probably an hour and a half, just listening to this, and
Hmm.
listening to her story. And we did speak with her. We were talking about reaching out, and we did. We never told her she couldn't reach out. The only thing that we did caution her with was that once you reach out and you've broken that, basically that private adoption, but you've gone, and that's what she wanted to do, that was okay. But once you've crossed that barrier, you can't come back. They'll forever know who you are, and they will be able to locate you, and just
Yeah,
always bear that in mind, that it's a big decision to make.
yeah.
And we encouraged her to wait, yeah, if she wanted to do that, to wait until she was 18.
Well, I
And
think you handled everything so sensitively. I mean, it really speaks to your character, and I mean, it's just the kind of person somebody would
sh-
want as a
she
mother.
turned out to be the most amazing
Oh,
kid. She's not a kid anymore, but she'll always be my kid.
a
But
beautiful story.
yeah, she's
I'm sure
she's
you
just
had
a
something to do
wonderful,
with
and just as precious.
Oh,
And so is my youngest. So is my youngest daughter as well. She has a special needs little girl that's
that.
10, and
I
that
see.
will be 10. She's hitting double digits in a couple months, and she has something really rare called Goldblatt syndrome. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before.
Right.
Have you?
It's pretty rare.
It's like 1 in 7 billion, I think. That's what they told us. And she has several other things, like she is almost deaf. And so she also has the is it called hip dysplasia? It's where the plate didn't she's got the ball, but she doesn't have the socket that comes over it. It's just a flat plate.
Didn't
So
like
she
it didn't
can't
heal.
walk.
Right.
Yeah, so she can't walk. She's built like a little person, but because she is, it's a type of dwarfism. So, but she doesn't have the typical little person body. I always say she's like a little grasshopper because she's got just like this normal shaped head. Her rib cage definitely looks like a little person, but then her pelvis and her legs, she's got long legs. Like, but so she looks like this little grasshopper. And she's feisty as all get out. But she's got enough things, and she also has seizures, which is very worrisome. But
Yeah,
she's
my son had those.
yeah, she has to take a lot of medication. She had a really bad one, and we nearly lost her a couple years ago. And she had a big one in her sleep. And then her mother FaceTimed me that morning, and she's like, "I can't wake her." And I said, "What?" When she turned her around, she was completely unresponsive to stimuli, pain stimuli. When
Terrible.
they started her IV and everything, and she didn't even. It took her a long time to come out of that ictal phase of that seizure she was
Mm.
in. So that's always our greatest fear. But
Yeah,
hopefully, right now they're
that
managed.
that
So
postictal period is rough.
it's rough.
It's
Hmm.
rough because
She
uh,
was totally out for about
just
7, 8
depending on
hours.
severity, sometimes they come to a lot quicker than others. And then,
Yes.
I've had it where, my son had it and he was in his postictal state and he was there kind of moving, no eyes
Hmm.
open, he couldn't hear me.
Yeah.
Um, and it's terrifying, especially the first, every single time it happens, it's terrifying, but uh, just trying to get them to respond is just
Yeah.
you're like, oh, they're not coming back to me fast enough, and
Right.
yeah, I've been
Yeah.
there. I know that
She was
feeling.
totally just, yeah, floppy. Just she had no muscle tone. She was totally, her
Yeah,
body was just totally so tired from the seizure, and
and then you
but
sleep for
yeah,
hours
that
after.
Goldblatt syndrome is what her main diagnosis. I know that a couple people have asked, and there's only been she was the 11th case in the case. We got the case studies, and um, I think it was back to 1926. So she was born in 2015. So a long time, almost
Mm,
100 years. There's
wow.
only been 11 cases, and some were siblings because it can run. But she does have we always call her the little big sister because she's going to be 8 and she's super tall. And then her oldest sister, who's the one who has Goldblatt, is 36 inches long, and she's going to be 10. And she weighs like about 35 pounds. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
but yeah, so
Well, it sounds
Well,
like it's really good.
oh, go ahead, Josh.
I was just saying, it sounds like you have a wonderfully strong and tight family, which is a
we do have a wonderful family. I'm very blessed. I really am. Really, really am.
Well, it was
We
very, very heartening to
Yeah,
hear.
it's great talking to you all as well.
Yeah.
thank you for the call.
So thank you so much. We have a bunch of people waiting, so
Yeah, that's fine. That's
Thank you
we'll
fine.
keep
so
you
much.
in our prayers, and
Thank you.
we're thinking of you.
Thank
Yeah.
Now,
you.
and also, Josh, I love the idea of pitching, the idea of adoption. I think it's so important.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And there's also something to be said about people that do put their children up for adoption. That's a act of love in itself.
I mean,
No,
some circumstances, and some of them, it,
yeah, but what I mean is,
all
look,
circumstances, but yes, and I
yeah,
know what you
yeah,
mean.
for the most, like, if there's somebody who, like, there's no way that I can give this child the
Right.
care and life that they need. I think I think that's an act of love, personally.
Well,
Okay,
I,
Lori,
I,
go ahead.
I personally
Hey,
love
how are
the
you
idea.
guys doing?
Mhm.
What'd you say, Dr. Gary?
No, I just said as somebody who doesn't have children but loves children, I love the idea of adoption. I think it's
Absolutely. You'd
very,
be a
very
great dad.
good idea. I would like to think so, but it didn't work out that way. But I would
Well,
love to.
you've scolded me several times. All right, Lori, go ahead. You're where are you calling
Dr.
from?
Gary, you can
Yeah.
adopt me.
What's your
I'm
name?
available for adoption.
What's your name?
Lori?
Lori. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Somehow, like, I'm blipping out, so like I didn't necessarily hear everything you said. I heard you say though that I could adopt you, which is
Yes, you can
I'm
adopt
not
me. I'm
gonna
up for
ask your
adoption.
age, but I'm gonna guess you're not a toddler.
I can definitely pretend I'm a toddler.
No, not asking you to. That you know, but no, but I think the idea of adoption is beautiful. I just happen to not have any children, and it does feel like one of those things I missed out on. Like,
Okay. Well, I'm from Washington State.
totally terrified.
Okay.
I'm
Totally
trying to
terrified.
figure out if I'm like basically petrified beyond the capacity. I don't know what's going on. I was actually more amused by the demonic electronic parrot.
Well, I'm more amused by this.
I don't know what is happening, but it's very Halloweenish. Okay, so
Oh God, you're hysterical. Okay, so I had one question. Now I have two. Going
I have
back to
3.
the first caller,
Yeah.
you were talking about social media and
Yes.
the fantasy world that it creates. It got me thinking about how the red pill guys grasp onto the fantasy world through social media. And they have a real low self-esteem anyway.
The red pill guys.
Yeah, the incels, the red pill
Hmm.
um, group, the red pill
Yeah, I got it.
guys.
Okay, go ahead.
Um,
I thought you were talking about
they have an unrealistic expectation of women. Could
Yeah.
that be where they're getting it from? This whole social media um, idea of what they want from a perfect woman, because they have an unrealistic idea of what a perfect man might be.
No, I think that the common denominator with this type um, is that it has something to do with the idea that they see themselves as a perfectly desirable, attractive person, and they usually are not, but they think that they are, and they are resentful that women seem to want a different kind of man, and that's the whole idea. So they'll say, why do they want all of these, kind of jocks, or why do they want these guys that are jerks, or why do they want these guys that are rich, or why do they want this guy? What and instead of wanting me. And the interesting thing about that type is they always seem to think that they're like the sweetest, most loving, fabulous boyfriend, languishing on the vine. But if you have a conversation with them, they're weird and misogynistic and aggressive and entitled. And it's sort of like a total lack of insight. You know what I'm saying, Josh? You know that kind of person? And it has nothing to do with what they think it has to do with. I mean, my experience has been that if a man is kind and stable and fun and supportive and listens well and is works and just is a decent human being,
And
somebody
funny.
find him attractive. And this idea that he has to look like a movie star is very stupid. But unfortunately, the culture that we live in has pumped men up to think that. And there's this terrible, terrible resentment that they think that there's like a checklist. If they just have the things on the checklist, that there's like a formula of what's going to make them attractive. Instead of understanding that, like, just be a decent human being. You see, and this kind of thing is very foreign to my mind because I am a person that finds it way more interesting when a person doesn't care about being like anybody else. I don't even understand the point of wanting to be like a checklist or a formula. So my attitude is always like, just be you, and somebody who is equally weird will come along and be like, wow, I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? And then you're happy, right? Instead of trying to adhere to some sort of idea, some standard, you should just be yourself. And what'll happen is that willingness to be yourself will be sexy to someone because it's kind of confident to stand alone and be willing to do something a little strange. And so that's what I think personally. But I get your point about, there is this kind of very sad echo chamber in which these kind of people live, and they reinforce each other, and they seethe in the resentments of women. But I don't like the entitlement that people like that have about women. It's the kind of person who, like, I've dealt with people like this, I've known people like this in the world, and where let's say they'll slide into a woman's DMs on social media, right? And they'll say something to her that's very sexualized. And then the person isn't interested in them, and then they'll be like, "You witch, like you're a jerk." Like, in other words, like, first you're expressing attraction to the person, they're not interested, and then because they dare to tell you that they don't think you're fascinating and whatever, then you start cursing at them. Like, that's weird. I can understand just kind of going like, "Sorry, I I really thought we'd get along," but what they do, some of these people do, is they actually get mean. It's very strange, right? Or I saw one time in Manhattan, a guy hit on a woman on the street. He was hitting on a lot of women standing on the corner. And when this one particular woman said something to him like, "No, I'm not interested," he spat at her, like, actually spat at her. And,
I believe it.
yeah, so this to me horrifies me. And, but what do you think, Josh? I mean, you get what I'm talking about, that type, right?
Yeah, I do, and I know that there are people in the chat going, "What does red pill mean? What does red pill mean?"
The Matrix thing, I think.
Well, it's that's where it originally started, but it's like when people, especially young men, mostly, they
It's that one. It started with that one dude. Oh God, he got busted for raping those women and trafficking. Oh God, what was his name? It was really gross. Him and his brother.
Yeah, but yeah, I know who you mean. I don't want to bring them up, but I know who you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about? The bald guys. Or
Yeah,
the
but
bald guy.
it started from the Matrix, is where it came from.
Yeah.
And basically, it's like when you take the red pill, your eyes are open to certain hidden truths about the world. So it's not necessarily a political thing. It's like when you have these unreal expectations, like the caller is talking about, of women, and then you go out to try and find a partner, and you realize that everything that you've been told about, that is not accurate, and then they become resentful and things like that. So anyway, that for the most part, that to me, that's what it is. And so yeah, I understand that most people that especially I used to manage a bunch of guys that were younger than I were, and they were somewhere between 24 and 30, and I had about 6 employees around that age. And I always noticed that if they didn't have like a steady routine in their life, meaning like if they weren't dating somebody and they didn't have children or whatever, once you start hitting around that 30-year-old mark, they start to sort of get in trouble, meaning like they have all this free time, they go to the bar, they're out chasing women, and their life sort of kind of becomes chaotic, and they find themselves in trouble because of the directionlessness of their life. And I used to talk to them about that, and it seemed as though it happens a lot more now. Once again, going back to the social media thing, everybody wants to impress, everybody wants to be something that they're not, and that's a very tough thing to
Right.
to really
That's why I think it's better to just encourage people to just be happy being what they are, and just wait until someone appreciates it.
Make women laugh.
Someone is going to appreciate you. What did you say? Women love what?
Women love it when you make them laugh. If you can make a woman laugh, you've got them.
I've made a lot of women laugh at me.
That's great.
No, not really.
That was always my thing, is if you could make me laugh, man, you had me.
I don't know. I mean, I am trying to be funny all the time, because I can't be too serious. I don't, you know, and it doesn't exactly work like flypaper, let me tell you. But I will say that being funny, to me, is a very attractive quality in another person, because I think
It
it's
is very
power.
being smart and being funny.
Yes.
Those two things are just fantastic. Anyways, I always thought that's that was just one take I had on an earlier subject. you
Yeah,
guys
but
were talking about.
I agree with you. I love funny people. I think funniness is a very attractive quality. If I could be out with a person and if they are cracking me up, I'll be like, I could get through a life with this person, because they see things through a lens that, because the truth is, finding things funny has a philosophy underneath it. And the philosophy is sort of floating outside of the thing, looking at it from 30,000 feet and understanding that, like, it's not that serious, and
Exactly.
sharp, smart. I also think humor has a kind of mysticism to it, because it's about seeing that something could stand for something else, that it has a deeper meaning, right? It's the same quality you see in religious and spiritual people. And I love that quality. And I always find people like that to be the ones who are right, you know, more than other people are. Um,
hmm
you know, it's interesting, you know, when you look at a culture and how it treats its comedians, is often
Yes.
a sign of the direction it is going, about, you know, because there is a fear of people who have a particular philosophy or whatever, because they can be truth tellers. So they have to be sort of, you know.
If you can laugh though.
So that's an interesting thing too, that you'll see all across history, is that comedians go along with the literature and the news and whatever, that sometimes they have to be muzzled, or they have to be sort of, you know, they can stir up anger, or they can, because they sometimes are the ones that are sort of floating outside commenting. Doesn't mean what they're saying is true. It's just that they stir the pot and they make you think, and
And
so
that's what they're
they feel
supposed to do.
dangerous in that sense. Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
Lori, thank you so much
Wait,
for.
wait, wait. I had a second. I had one more question. I'm so sorry.
All right.
And this is a quick one. It should be a quick one. Um,
Is it a joke?
there was a shooting, a school shooting last week.
Not at all.
Last week.
Mhm.
Did you hear about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
You both did?
Oh, I've heard about tons of them. I mean, which school shooting
So
do you
there
mean?
was a school shooting last week, and it was the same day that the other incident happened
Yeah, I'm
that's
aware of that.
everywhere right now.
Yeah.
Same day, same
Mhm.
time, actually. And it was Evergreen High School, I think.
Right.
Two kids were shot, two high school kids were shot, and the shooter killed himself. And we, there was hardly any talk about it. I think two stations covered it, and that was it. Do you think there has become a lack of empathy
Yes.
in the United States towards school shootings? Have we
Yes.
become numb?
I actually talked about this on, I don't know if you listened to the podcast that I dropped on Friday.
Oh, I
Actually
didn't.
talked in length about this and how we have become, and I say we as in, you know, the people that I at least talk to and associate with mostly. Obviously, I'm not painting in absolutes here, but yes, because it just keeps happening, and you know, you start to become numb to things that happen, no matter how, you know, gruesome and how terrible they are. It doesn't mean that they're not a terrible thing. That absolutely any kind of shooting like that, especially schools, these soft targets, you know, these young kids who can't defend themselves. It's especially heinous, and it's egregious, and it's all those things. The problem is it happens so often that it is so difficult to really, you know, because you agree. I remember when Sandy Hook happened, right? Sandy Hook was
Right.
it was such one of the craziest,
It was
just,
horrible.
you know, Uvalde and all these things there. And finally, you know, sometimes you just can't deal with it anymore. You can't listen to it every day, you know, because it just brings you to a state of helplessness, in my opinion. I don't know what to do about it. The I have no idea, and I'm sure you don't either, and Dr. Gary doesn't either, because until I always just say, look, it's until I just don't see it changing, to be honest with you. And as unfortunate as that is, I think that schools need to beef up their security. I think, you know, we're sort of at that stage where, you know, now they're having school shooting drills, right? That
Yes, they
you know,
are.
on in school. I mean, how crazy!
It's preschool to high school,
We
right?
didn't do any of that when I was a kid. We jumped out of the back of the bus. Do you remember that drill? They take you out to the parking lot and be like, "Here, jump out of the back of the bus." That's what we did.
Well, see, I was around when they had, well, they're earthquake drills now in California, but they were for Russia attacks or nuclear. They were nuclear drills back
Yeah,
then.
you get under the desk so you didn't get right.
So they could like identify who they were or who we were when
Right,
we crisped up. I'm
right.
that old. Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
I
no,
am.
that's for Dr. Gary. If you want to hit on it real quick, and then we got to move on.
Okay.
No, I'll just say that um, I think that it's a classic example of something that, as it increases in frequency, doesn't have the sort of massive shock value that it would have had when it was rarer, which is absolutely depressing. So it's sort of starting to move, off the first page and become something that is more frequent and I think also there's a growing institutional denial. Like we're not going to come to some kind of agreement about how to handle this, and we don't want to talk about it anymore. So let's start to stick it, in the dirt. And that's a serious problem because these things just keep happening. I mean, the notion that you have to go to school and be afraid that you might not come home, or be afraid that your children might not come home, and that's not even that bizarre of a fear, is really scary and dystopian stuff. And the idea that the argument is painted in these overly simplistic terms, and you would think this is something that, like, it would be like the very first thing that after the shooting, that, like, a bunch of people would get together, change things, and that would be the end of it, because it's so horrible it simply can't happen again. But after Sandy Hook, what happened? I mean, Sandy Hook, if that didn't change things, what is going to?
Yeah. Well, what about Uvalde? Uvalde,
Right.
they had to identify the kids by their shoes. Some of them.
Oh my God.
And I mean, that to me, and here's another thing, and I'm not going to, well, we're going to move on from this, but what I will say is that I know that, people, they cherish their Second Amendment, and I get it. And then when parents talk about, look, my mom was killed by a gun that was obtained illegally, that he shouldn't have had. And, that's a whole different debate. But the thing is, people, you have parents screaming, for their kids that have been killed. And then you have people that are going, you're not going to violate my, gun rights. And I think that if you've ever lost somebody to gun violence like that, especially a child, I don't know, man, you really might feel different.
We are
That's
a violent nation.
that's just my personal opinion. I don't, as somebody who has lost somebody to gun violence, and I'm not even anti gun. I'm not. I know that, especially with schools, there needs to be more that done, I think, personally.
But what is going to stir that to happen if the things that have happened haven't been enough?
I don't know, administrations,
No, to be perfectly honest with you, as somebody who's
school
extensively,
administrations.
I would say that one of the problems is that there is a multi-billion-dollar industry and lobby associated with firearms that turns it into a political and almost spiritual argument to keep people from having a reasonable discussion about control of those
Exactly.
things. And that's it. I mean, it basically boils down to that the pot is stirred up, it is elevated to some massive, kind of debate, like existential debate, because it is a big money industry.
No question.
And I really think that's, I mean, I hate to say it, but I think that's the problem. Follow the money.
Yeah.
And
All right, Lori, we really got to move on.
don't be surprised, that there is a desire to not talk about this stuff in the news sometimes, because it's an unattractive and depressing reality that you're being asked to basically deal with the fact that that's going to happen sometime.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but that's depressing.
All right.
So moving along, but that was a very important call, and I also want to be clear that I don't think there's a simple solution, because the solution can't be to just tear up a constitutional right. So but we do have to have some kind of reasonable conversation with people like me who have actually studied this stuff and can get together and say, like, this is what is actually predictive of these things and what would really need to go into a red flag law, not what you currently have. That's not adequate. So I think there needs to be more discussion of that, and standardization of what schools and other settings should do to be prepared in case these things erupt.
Right. And the reason we have to move on is just because we have other callers to get to. That's
but it's a very important call.
Yeah. Linda, go ahead. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Surprise, Arizona.
Oh, are you the surprise caller?
Yes.
That we had? Pleasure to talk to you. How are you?
Surprise. Yeah, I've called in before.
Good deal.
I'm getting off topic of what you've been discussing, but I'm wondering, Dr. Gary, what are you familiar with the Chris Watts case? I'm assuming.
Oh, yes. Josh is very familiar with the Chris Watts case.
Yeah. And I read everything. I read everything that ever comes up about it, but I just don't understand how someone who is supposedly looks like I don't know what normal is, but a great father and great husband ends up doing something like that and killing his whole family.
Go ahead.
So what I mean, is he a psychopath? I mean, what do you know?
There is no cookie cutter answer to that question. There are, first of all, the annihilation of a family can happen for many reasons. I created with Raghi Gurgis at Columbia a motivational system for analyzing mass murders, and family annihilations are generally mass murders, unless you just killed a partner and one child, and it's not enough victims to meet criteria for a mass murder. And but they can really run the gamut. So there can be cases where a person says, I really love my family, but I can't financially take care of them, and I'm going to eliminate myself and them out of a kind of depressive self-loathing, and I view it that I'm sort of sparing them. Then there are people that can do it because they're angry at the mother or the father of the children because of infidelity or jealousy or anger or something like that, and they can eliminate the family. Josh is an example of somebody where easily there could have been an annihilation of a whole family because of someone's jealousy. Josh, you could speak to that, of course, right? So that's a thing that can happen. There can be a person that is using substances or alcohol and becomes disinhibited and disorganized. There can be a person who is psychotic and does that because of paranoia or voices. There can be a person that does it because they're a psychopath. They could do it because it's an elimination murder or an act of revenge, where you want to settle a score, or you want to send a message, or somebody is in the way of a new romance or a new. So the problem is there are too many reasons. So to say what kind of person does it, it runs the gamut from a reasonably quote unquote normal person who is under certain duress or in certain life circumstances, to a person with emotional or impulse control problems, to drugs, alcohol, to mental health issues like psychosis, all the way to being narcissistic, all the way up to being a psychopath. And so the answer is that the motives for such a thing can be as diverse as people are. Now, what is the most frequent reason for it? The most frequent reason for it is becoming overwhelmed by a sense of dissolution of the family. So, in other words, the idea that you think that your partner has been unfaithful, or that they are, and you feel that you've been dishonored, and you basically want the whole family eliminated. Interestingly, there are animals that do that. A lion, for example, which if a male lion smells another male lion on a female, he'll kill the cubs because of the idea that the offspring have been tainted potentially by another male. That also happens with horses. There are some situations in which if a pregnant female horse smells of another male, the male horse may force the female to miscarry. So that these things can happen in the animal world, and so that's kind of interesting to think about that. But there's no justification for it, of course,
Right.
because ultimately it's a
Or-
moral choice. But
and-
Josh, I think you should speak to this because it's only by the grace of God that that situation in which your mother
Right.
unfortunately died was not a family annihilation. I mean, wasn't there also a situation that you and your sister had to be hidden?
Yeah, several different times, but particularly on
Right.
that day. Now, like I said, I don't know what obviously when asked, he said that, yeah, I would never do that to my children. And but I remember asking I've told this story before, but I remember asking my therapist when I was just a little kid, and I barely remember saying it, but they said, my dad said that he loved my mom and he killed her. My dad said that he loves me. Does that mean he's going to kill me too? Because I didn't quite understand what that meant, because he would always say, "Oh, I love you, and you just hear that and you're just like, "Well, you said that you loved her." And I think that my situation that happened with my parents is kind of a cookie cutter, unfortunately, something that happens when somebody wants to leave somebody and that other person cannot stand the fact that somebody's leaving them. How dare they? You're mine. Nobody else can have you. Things like that. Now, somebody like Chris Watts, who had one foot out the door and was trying to start a new life with another lady.
Right.
I think a lot of that is him just being he's first of all, he obviously only cares about himself, and that it's a more financial thing than just walking away and getting a divorce. I mean, he could have easily just said, "Hey, I'm getting a divorce, and I'm going to see this other,
Right.
start dating this other lady." And as terrible as that is, to walk out on your family and start a new life with, and you have these obligations because you don't like the way that life is going. There's something to be said for how much of a coward that is.
So
For
you're
not,
talking about an elimination murder, what I've called
yeah.
murder, where the
Like-
motive is simply to get someone out of the way because they're an impediment to some other thing that you desire.
The
Yeah.
Chris Watts case is actually similar, and I don't know if you guys are too young when this happened. It occurred in the 70s in North Carolina, but he's in prison now, Jeffrey McDonald, where he killed his whole family.
Of course I know that story.
Oh, do you know it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's in our
Okay.
database.
Well, I remember it being when I lived in North Carolina. I remember it being on the front, page, and it took 10 years to bring him to justice. And he still denies to this day that he did it. And because he cheated on his wife, I wonder if he was, like you said, disillusioned with the family life and just wanted to create a new life for himself.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, the McDonald case, if I'm not mistaken, was the case that inspired Michael Stone to write Anatomy of Evil, and I believe that the scale that I then worked on with him for the New Evil was created for the courtroom and in a lawsuit related to the McDonald case because of the book Fatal Vision.
Oh yeah, I read that book.
Right, and so of course I know that case. It was something that, first of all, we studied for the Mass Murder Database of Columbia, but it also is a case that I heard a lot about because of Michael Stone's personal connection to McDonald. But it's an interesting story. But I think it's interesting to me that you're interested in very particular types of cases. I'm always fascinated by that when people have a kind of special focus on a type of case. Why do you think these cases, these family annihilations, interest you?
I don't know. these, like I said, these two are cases I've researched. I mean, when in Kohlberger, when he did what he did, I researched those cases. I'm just interested really in just true crime.
I
And my interest in is why people do the things they do, what leads them to do something so heinous. I just don't, I just try to, I don't think I can ever
but like the
understand it.
cases that you've referenced have commonalities that are interesting.
Right. They do.
And it's just something to think about, why you're drawn to those particular cases. I'm intrigued by that. I hope you've read The New Evil. I think that you'd enjoy it based on,
Well,
or that is to say, you would learn from it. I don't know if enjoy is the right word. It doesn't exactly send you into,
yeah, I have a Kindle and I left it at my son's house, and I was going to try to order your new book on The New Evil on my Kindle, and I haven't gotten it back yet.
Kindle?
So,
Do you like Kindles?
oh, I love it.
Oh, that's
'Cause
funny.
I
Somebody
read,
gave me one once, and I was like, "Oh God!" Like I like books, like the actual smell of them and the texture of them. So the idea of
I
it
do too.
drives me crazy.
And my daughter-in-law bought it as a gift for me because she knows I love to read, and I read probably a couple books a week, and I really miss it,
You like
And
that musky ass smell, Dr. Gary? You like that?
If somebody bought me a Kindle, I would burn it at both ends.
oh yeah, no,
But
I love it. But I like true
I
crime
burn
too.
the
I mean,
Kindle, burn the Kindle at both ends. But I'm not a fan of them because I just like books.
yeah.
Do you know how many books I have?
Yes, I do actually.
You really, it's disturbing.
You
I
said
mean,
like
I love it if people guess. It would be like
5 or
counting
6,000, right?
the jar. Yeah, but I have many thousands of books.
Yeah, and don't you like when somebody borrows it, like you have like a checkout system?
When I was a kid, I had a Dewey Decimal System. I used to call it the Gary Decimal System. And people were not allowed to take it. But one of my favorite things to do,
That's my favorite.
in different places I've lived, is to make little signs for the sections, like that are, I used to like to make them out of the little stand and pieces from Scrabble, and then like paste the like it would say like mystery written in Scrabble letters, like glued to the little board, and put it in front. But then I started to get more creative and glue things to the board that were pertinent to the subject, like little animals glued to it if it's the zoology section, or
Oh, that's cute.
or like the true crime, the true crime section where I lived previously. I got newspapers and magazines and cut the letters out like a ransom note, and it said true crime, like written like that on a little board. And I had a lot of fun with it. But it is a dream of mine, one day, if I ever get out,
be a librarian.
no, to own a bookstore.
Right, exactly.
I would love to own a
Book
bookstore.
industry for a very long time. It's how I got myself through teaching, and that is how I got myself through my master's studies financially, and then a little bit into my doctoral degree. And I love books. I'm like one of those people who thinks it's sexy when people like books. Like if I went to somebody's house on a date and they didn't have books, I would go home. Like it would be a
I
turn.
love books. I do have
Yeah,
hardback
I
books.
wouldn't be able to deal with it. I'd be like, no, like I got to get out of here.
You make it one step inside the house.
Well, I was
It
given
just
this
says
as a
something
gift.
about their personality.
Yeah.
If they're not drawn to books, I just can't deal with it. But
Well, I was given this as a gift, so I kind of have to use it,
yeah. But I'm happy that I think it's wonderful that you like books, and but it is a dream, to maybe one day have a little, like the cliche bookstore in the small town with like a cat, that kind of thing, and like some comfortable armchairs. I would have a lot of out of print books and things that people, that are really obscure, and I'd be deliriously happy. I just think, and people every once in a while they do like a piano performance, or like maybe I could sell plants, all the things I love, like all under the.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, somebody will be weird in the bookstore, and I'll say, "Sit down over there," and I'll analyze you, and they'll say, "What credentials do you have?" And I'll say, "Well, before I did."
No, nobody would ever be weird in a bookstore.
Oh, come on.
By the way,
but it would be the best bookstore ever. I'm sorry.
One of my electives in high school was I was the library assistant. So I would like check books out for people.
Yeah, I think that's cool. You want to be the assistant in the bookstore?
No.
Why not?
because I just need I just needed credits. I don't want to do it like I don't want to. It was fun. It was quiet. I got to play on the computer a lot.
Dr. Gary, are you familiar with Frida McFadden? Frida McFadden, the author.
Why
Frida.
is that name ringing a bell? What did Frida McFadden write?
She's actually a doctor, a medical doctor, and she writes mysteries. And they, oh my gosh, you've got to read her. I've read about 6 or 7 of them now. And the
Really?
twists and turns through these books are just, they're
Interesting.
incredible.
I happen to be friends with a couple of mystery writers, and it's very interesting how they can overlap with the world of true crime. For example, Diane Fanning, who's a friend of mine, I think she's an Edgar Award winner. She was the one who wrote what I think is the best book on Tommy Lynn Sells. I think it's called Through the Bedroom Window. And she actually got him, if I'm not mistaken, to confess to a crime. And you know, there are a lot of stories like that. You know, that's a tradition that goes back. You know, getting Agatha Christie or Arthur Conan Doyle to kind of opine on a real life crime and things like that. That's an old tradition. But I love the idea that you recommended a mystery writer to me whose work I'm not familiar with.
Oh, believe me, you'll be hooked. I won't read any books now except hers until I've read them all.
I was just moving through all the Dorothy Sayers.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a good one to do next.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But thank you for that. That's
no problem. Well,
if we talk about books too much, Josh flatlines, you know. So we have to. He hates when I talk about books.
No, I like it. I mean, it shows who you are. And it's a beautiful thing. You like books. What's a big deal?
Do you like books?
Yeah, they're fine. Yes.
Thank you. I can stay.
I think they're very. I think that they're very important.
They are very, very important. Very important. And
yes.
and you should be terrified in any place in which people start eliminating and limiting books, because as the old saying says, where first you burn books, you'll later burn people.
Yes, that is true. You know, I was watching an episode of The Waltons one time, and it was like
the weirdest transition ever.
Well, it's going to tie in. It's going to flow
people to the Waltons. Okay, let's see this one.
Okay, so John Boy, he had this little newspaper, and he was printing what was going on over in, you know, Germany, and it was kind of on the rise of Adolf Hitler, and they were the whole town wanted to burn. They all wanted to burn German books, and John Boy, who loves writing and books and things like that, was completely against it. He's like, if you know, just because you turn your head and burn a book doesn't mean that, you know, it's not happening or it's not true. They went to burn this book, and it was German, but it was like it was the Christian Bible, but nobody knew it because nobody could read it. Yeah. So then it was like this whole, everybody kind of took a step back. There was one lady there that could read German, and it was the Christian Bible, and they were about to burn it. And that always kind of stuck with me for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway.
Well, it's a kind of a metaphor for the whole essence of Christianity, which is to take something, the value of which you do not understand, and destroy it. I mean, that's the whole point. It's like destroying truth. I mean, that's what would have happened, for example, on Good Friday.
Right.
That's the symbolism. It's sort of like when they kill, what's his name? Simon in The Lord of the Flies, the one who comes with the light to sort of tell them that the beast that they're venerating is nothing but the head of a pig, you know, and they're like, you know, and they kill him, and he symbolizes in that way Christ. But I really appreciate having an opportunity to talk about books, because they are not just, you know, 2 covers with paper in the middle. They are the essence of ideas, and give people freedom and make people think twice about things or look deeper into things. And a book can change your life. I've had my life changed by books, or even sentences in books, many times.
Yes.
And I would be terrified to live in a world in which what I read and consumed was dictated.
I agree with that.
I agree.
Yeah. Linda, thank you so
enjoy books while you have them.
Okay,
you know,
thank you.
You never know when you won't. Okay, thank you so much.
Ready. Let's see. All right, we just gotta.
Any
Few-
more people?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, this is good. Are you bored yet?
No,
Good. I enjoyed the call-ins. I still want to know who the person was that called with the parrot thing.
you're never gonna
Where we
find
just
it.
heard like oh, blah, 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 blah. Sounded like when Princess Leia is dressed as a bounty hunter and like goes to talk to Jabba the Hutt. Remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, and then they go in with the.
I've
he's-
never watched the Star Wars movie.
It's Return of the Jedi when it comes in. It's like it's a bomb, and then they're like, and then it turns out that it's Princess Leia there to rescue Han Solo.
I don't.
What kind of childhood did you have?
A terrible one.
Well, that's true. That's not a fair.
My grandmother watches them all the time. One time I walked in, she's watching. I don't remember which one it is, but it was the one where Darth Vader was saying that he was Luke's father. And she had been watching all day up until that point. And I walked in the door and she goes, Josh, did you know that Darth Vader is Luke's father? And I said, yeah, like that's the premise of the whole friggin' thing. Of course. And she goes, have you seen it? I said, no, I've never seen it, but I know that. I know. I don't know how you didn't know that.
Under a rock you have lived. Listen, seriously, Josh. In all seriousness, I do remember.
What you must read.
Right, hey, that's pretty good. One time, we did get a call from someone who had a medical procedure that made them speak with a voice that was very robotic, like that. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And, so just in case that was the same person, then obviously that's not funny.
It wasn't.
But I think that what this was that this was where like somebody's Wi-Fi was failing or something, and it was just sounding bizarre. But I do remember that one time we did have a caller, and that of course is a very serious matter. But I have to say we both did pretty good Yodas there.
Yeah, I think we did.
That was pretty good, especially given that you haven't seen them.
I've seen Yoda do a million commercials. We used to do those Pepsi commercials.
I love Yoda. Yoda is my favorite.
I bet he is. All right, go ahead. Where are you calling from? And
I love Yoda. I identify with him. But
you guys have the same shaped head.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I won't say who you share a head with. But
caller, go ahead. You're on.
Let's just say they're a Twi'lek. Okay. Actually, more of a Wookiee. So go ahead.
All right, caller. Caller, you there? You're low.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Where are you calling from? What's your name?
Oh, hey. My name's Claire. I'm calling from North Carolina.
Pleasure. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Okay. Very well. So
here's my
take
question.
us away from Star Wars chat.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, it is a little bit from Star Wars. Josh, I just wanted to tell you, I think you have the cutest dogs I've ever seen.
Oh, thank you very much.
They're precious and they're so funny. You were on one night and I guess they were in your bed or something and they were trying to get under the covers or something in the background. Yes, it was hilarious.
Does it all?
Really are cute. It's absolutely true. They're adorable.
Cute. I have 4 rescues. I have 2 dogs and 2 cats that I've rescued. And this is probably my 100th bunch, but that's just the way it goes.
I sent Josh a video the other day of a baby of the same breed.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I saw another video of that dog.
Yeah, I sent him this video online of like a baby of that same breed he has, and he was very funny. He was like, "That is the cutest thing I have ever seen." Like
they are
like gibbering,
like slapping at the air, kind of pouncing around, having a great time.
Well, they talk a lot, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Because they're little Frenchies, aren't they?
Yeah, they go. Rah, rah, rah,
yeah, all the ones I've seen talk a lot.
Yep.
Just talk and talk and talk.
Yeah, Macho does, but he barks at everything. That's his thing.
So cute. I think it's awesome that you rescued pets.
I've been doing it for years.
It's very important.
I was lucky enough to grow up with horses and chickens and goats and
oh my
God, let's see what else.
What about lions and tigers and bears?
No, we didn't get that far. No, we didn't get that far. But we had about 5 acres, and my mom was never allowed to have pets when I was growing up. So when we got the opportunity, they just started coming. So We started with dogs and then started with chickens and then got horses and had horses for years.
Well, I
And
think
then
did
it
you
got
eventually need an ark?
we probably could have used an ark, but no, it was just a lot. But it was fun. We all learned responsibility, and
Sure.
my parents limited time in front of TV because there was just too much we had to do to keep the place going. Besides,
did you have any like exotic animals?
no, I wouldn't. No, we just had basic stuff. The only thing that got anything exotic, my mom showed some of the dogs an AKC. That was her thing to do when she wasn't working. So she did that up until she was in her late 80s.
That's awesome.
And then she showed Weimaraners and showed them in field and tracking and all that. So that was her big thing.
That's amazing. So what is it you wanted to talk about today? I assume it wasn't to just talk about the menagerie you grew up with.
No, I'm sorry. No.
Story. But
not really. Do you
yeah.
do much forensic work on cold cases at all?
Of course, I'm a member of the Cold Case Foundation.
Well, I know that's probably a stupid question, but I still had to ask because you don't talk about it much.
In the Cold Case Foundation, the foundation, which was started by retired Quantico profilers. Two of the former heads of the BAU founded it, right? John Douglas and Greg Cooper.
Okay.
And the idea being that we get approached with cases from all over the world. Chris McDonough is among the leadership. You know him from the interview room and of course from this show.
Right. No, I'm familiar with Chris.
We work with law enforcement and families, individuals all over the place, who have unsolved crimes. And I'm also a member of what's called the Super Sleuths group, which is Ann Burgess and others. I work with her at Boston College. Victor Petrarca, that I work with there. And that's a group that gets experts together from a lot of different areas to tackle cold cases. So yes, I have definitely contributed to insights into cold cases. But is there a particular
yes
curious about that?
Yeah, there's a case I wanted to ask you about.
Writing a book on cold cases, by the way, with the foundation.
Oh, cool.
As we speak.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool. Well, I've got a lot of John Douglas's books. That's how I kind of started reading in true crime, and then I went all the way up to the crime classification manual, and I read that.
Of course.
And then I've got your book, and I'm about halfway. I'd say about halfway through it.
What do you think?
I like it. I mean,
you like it.
I like it. My background is my background's medical, so I used to work psych for a long time and some other stuff. So it's real interesting to me. But then there's the other half of me that likes the true crime stuff because I'm always learning something with it. And it's very interesting and the descriptions on, behavior and whatnot without me going into a bunch of detail. But I was asking because I'm aware of the Academy group. I think, wasn't that Robert Ressler when he was still alive? He was part of the Academy group. I didn't realize that John Douglas was behind the Cold Case Foundation.
Of course.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that. That's new news.
He wrote he wrote the little intro to the book we have coming out about the foundation.
Oh, cool. Well, so here's the case. Are you familiar with the Jody Huisentruit case out in Minnesota?
Which case?
Jody Huisentruit.
That does sound familiar.
She was the little broadcaster, TV broadcaster, the young girl, the TV broadcaster.
Yes. It's coming back to me. Josh, bring up the details so we can discuss it.
What was her name?
Jody Huisentruit.
Got it.
Yeah,
I'm remembering a little bit about it now that you're calling to mind details of it.
I think I saw a documentary.
My own database.
There's several documentaries out about it, but they've been doing some updates to the case. And I think it was in the last year that there was a guy that was much older than her that was interested in her and supposedly a friend of hers, but a lot of people have suspected him, and he died about a year ago. Wow. And but there's still investigative work going on the case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was just kind of interested if you or have or could be doing any work on it or have any
Well, if
comments about it
somebody
or anything.
associated with the case were to approach the foundation, that's a different matter, right? I mean, the idea would be
Yeah,
people can do that. They can request, they can petition the foundation.
right, right,
And the idea is, to be involved in a case, it's important for the foundation to have access really to everything, right? Like
right.
they have
I
to be,
just
we have to be able to look at everything, crime scene photos, surveillance, DNA that may be there, police reports, the whole thing.
no, I got you. I
Yeah.
don't know. I didn't know if they had ever even involved the FBI in that or not. It's never been clear to me whether or not they did.
But even if there had been, if we get approached, we treat it with a confidentiality. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Oh, I'm
So if
sorry.
that ever were to happen, it wouldn't be public knowledge.
Public knowledge.
We would protect the privacy of everyone involved. It's very important, But
No, I got you.
yeah, but so why does this case interest you?
Because there's just there's something about her going out to get into the car,
Mm-hmm.
that morning, going to work like any other day, and then somebody obviously abducting her, grabbing her, dragging her off, and then we've never heard another thing about what happened. Whether it was possibly somebody that could be connected to other crimes or other things, or if it was just this kind of lone wolf sort of kind of thing, or what. To me, it's just very interesting because of that. There's just so much of unknown there. And, as a woman myself, I've traveled before and did stuff that outside of, my medical background, I did some other things and travel too. And that's something you become very aware of, especially if you're female, is where you are, having a swivel head, keeping very aware because anything could happen to you. And, I've lost a friend to something similar to that,
Oh.
but you just don't ever know, what could happen. And even when I traveled, I had some creepy stuff that happened every so often. But luckily enough, I had a good, I think I had a good set of, radar. It's the best way I can put it. You just know when something doesn't feel right and the hair starts to stand up on the back of your neck. And you start being very, very careful about what you're doing and who you're talking to and making sure you have, an escape route or something, way out. So
But
that's why.
as I remember, what I do remember of this story, because somebody asked me about this at some point, because I remember the key being bent and
the key was bent.
And right. So there was some kind of struggle.
Yeah, at the car when she went to get into the car.
I remember that part of the story because there was this whole question, like, was it someone who knew her? Was it someone who, just sort of abducted her for ransom? Was it
Well, they never heard of a ransom. I don't think they ever heard anything about that,
no,
but
there
they
were all
found her
kinds of
shoe.
theories about it, right? And
yeah,
but certainly I remember the one thing I do remember pointing out about it that I thought was interesting was that there was so clearly some kind of struggle. Wasn't she a news anchor?
Yes, she was a news anchor.
Yeah. Josh, why don't you read the
Yeah, I was going to read about the disappearance.
read the summary and refresh everybody's
So the day before her disappearance, how do you pronounce it? Huisentruit?
Yeah, Huisentruit.
Huisentruit participated in a golf tournament, according to Mason City resident John Van Cis.
Van Cise.
Van Cise.
That's the guy that died that I told you about.
Okay, I got you. So, and was he a suspect?
They thought, yeah, he was. And supposedly he came, they interviewed him multiple times. And I don't think they could find anything totally linking him to her. Now, he died about a year ago. He ended up leaving that area of Minnesota and moved out to Arizona or somewhere like that and got a dementia and then passed away about, I think it was like a year ago, possibly.
Gotcha. Well, so it says here, she then went to his house to view homemade videotape of a birthday celebration that they had arranged for her earlier that month. So this is the day before she goes missing. About 4 a.m. on Tuesday, June 27, 1995, KIMT producer Amy Kunz noticed that Huisentruit had failed to report to work as scheduled and called her apartment. When Huisentruit answered the telephone, she explained that she had overslept and that she was preparing to leave for the station. However, by 6 a.m., Huisentruit had still not arrived. So Kunz filled in for her on the morning show Daybreak at about 7 a.m. KIMT staff called the Mason City Police. When the police arrived at Huisentrut's apartment, they found a red Mazda Miata in the parking lot that she was planning on buying, as well as evidence that suggested a struggle had taken place near the car. Her personal items, including a bent car key and her red high heels, were strewn about the area. Yeah. And the police reported recovering an unidentified palm print from a pole nearby. In the investigation, investigators interviewed at least 3 neighbors at Huisentrut's apartment complex who said they had heard screams around that time, that she would have likely been leaving for work. In addition, a nearby neighbor reported seeing a white Ford Ecoline idling in the parking lot about the same time. September 1995, the Huisentrut family hired a private investigator from McCarthy and Associates Investigative Services in Minneapolis, who in turn enlisted the assistance of Omaha private investigator Doug Jossa. McCarthy and Jossa appeared on several national television shows, including America's Most Wanted, Unsolved Mysteries. In November 95, they and members of Huisentrut's family traveled to Los Angeles to meet with 3 prominent psychics. This meeting was televised and served as the pilot for the Psychic Detectives television show. Although each show generated several leads, none resulted in concrete evidence nor identified a suspect. In May 1996, approximately 100 volunteers searched an area of Cerro Gordo County and left flags to mark anything that appeared suspicious. Each of these sites were then re-examined by law enforcement. No promising evidence was located. Police and private investigators have conducted more than 1,000 interviews, but none have resulted in a conclusion and conclusive evidence pointing to a suspect. Huisentrut was declared legally dead in May 2001.
So total want of motive. That's the whole thing that makes it so impossible to reconstruct this. You'd have to figure out like who would benefit from a person disappearing, and when there is no motive, your thoughts start going to, they were targeted because they were a young, attractive woman. They were a public figure who might have said a certain thing. They might have, that kind of thing. You start thinking along the lines of, but unfortunately, as every day goes on, I mean, this is so long ago, but I mean, there is a print, which is interesting. That's the kind of thing, we would be very interested in.
Yeah.
That there's a print and we don't know whose it is. But I think it's beautiful that you're keeping the case alive by talking about it. I hope someone is viewing who has some link to the case, who maybe says, you know what, maybe we want to go to the foundation and sort of petition them to have a look at this case. I think that would be awesome.
I think it would be great too.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting though. Yeah, I have seen a documentary about her, and it's when people disappear off the face of the earth, it leaves a really weird feeling about the case, and there's got to be some sort of explanation as usual. But
there has to be, and the friend, the girl that I mentioned before that was lost, Jody Huisentrut flew as a flight attendant for about 3 years, I think, before she went into journalism. And I flew for about 10 years. And one of the girls, there was a girl that I was called in to replace that no-showed a trip. And it took me all day to get me into position to cover for this girl's trip. But what had happened was when you work for an airline, there's multiple ways you have to check in, because the airplane can't move if the crew complement is not there. And that means not just the pilots, the flight attendants too. It's a federal air reg. So anyway, this girl was supposed to show up, didn't show up. They started looking for her. And they ended up, some of the supervisors that I knew ended up at her condo. And this was in Atlanta.
Hmm.
And this was been many years ago, actually, too. And they found the door was ajar. They called the police. They went in and they found her there. And I don't know all of the details because they were not put out. But I know that the one thing I do know is that she had cigarette burns on her. And then the FBI got involved. We had the FBI all over the airline, and they had bolos out everywhere. And this went on for quite a while. And to this day, they have still not found out who killed her or why. They thought it might have been someone that got her name off her luggage or something and followed her home off the aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
They also thought she had moved into this condo 3 months prior, and they were having building in the area. So they thought it might have been something like that, which kind of reminds me of the Jennifer Kessie case, down in Florida, and her being missing because they were doing construction around her place when she disappeared, and they've never found her either. So it's just kind of creepy, you know what I mean? And I do think somewhere there's an answer. What happens to these girls, and but
Well, the
there's just
problem
not
is
a lot to work with.
typically the people that have the answers don't want to give them up.
Well, that may be, but I mean, it always makes you wonder, like, why? I mean, what are you going to benefit? Who could, it's like you said earlier, who's going to benefit from that? And that's the strangest thing to me. I don't always look at it quite in that point of view, but it's another way. It's something else to consider.
Yeah,
What Dr. Gary said, because he brings it in from another perspective with all his knowledge and everything. But I mean, I was just like, it's just so weird. And I thought after a while, and I left flying, but years ago, but time and time again, it'll come up in my brain, and I'll look that up, and they still have not solved that case. And I think they had more to work with, I think, there than they have maybe in the Jennifer Kessie case and maybe in the Jody Husentrick case. But I mean, that's just strange to me that, what kind of person does that? What are they going to get out of it? It just doesn't seem like there's
usually, and Dr. Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but like a young woman like that, typically it's probably sexual in nature, the crime.
I mean, it's impossible to say because all we have is,
I agree with that, but also what I'm saying is that, like, women are especially young women, single women are targeted a lot by a lot of creeps out there. It's just how it is.
I mean, the victimology is suggestive.
Yeah, exactly.
But
especially when a crime occurs at like early in the morning, like that, 4, 5, 6. It's early.
Actually, it's a pretty brazen time to do something like that.
I would think so. I would think it'd be brazen. It's in daylight.
Right.
And you can get seen. So, in close proximity, the neighbors, that kind of thing.
Well, it's dark out still.
Right. And the other part that's interesting about the victimology is that this was a public figure. This could have been a person, an object of obsession. This could have been an object of resentment. There could have been you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I mean, I come on these shows. I do a lot of documentaries and television and stuff. And even I have gotten, calls, letters, emails, things that are a mixture of, from the sort of over the top, appreciation to anger. And, imagine an anchor that's being watched by thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and who knows what eyes are falling on them and what people are thinking, because it's it's a sort of high profile person to target, and certainly in broad daylight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's an odd choice.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're, so that's something that is interesting to think about in the victimology. But because this was a public figure and a conspicuously attractive public figure, right? I mean, as I recall, she was a petite blonde, pretty, right? I mean, isn't that correct?
Yes,
That
I think.
yes.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody that unfortunately, somebody might have taken a disturbing liking to or whatever. So, but we don't know. We just don't have enough data. That's the whole trouble with this.
Well, she had reported.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I believe she had reported a pickup truck following her when she was jogging. And that had been a couple of weeks
you're starting to make
prior. Sense. Yeah, well, that was part of it, but I don't know if they've ever been able to find out who that was. But I think she had reported to the girl Kuntz at the radio station. I mean, at the TV station, rather. What am I saying? TV station, that she thought she might have had a stalker, but that's just only understood of one incident of that happening. So I don't know if there's more to that story or not. That's all I could find out about it.
Right, but that's interesting because that starts to add up, but
starts to smell a little bit.
Yeah, it starts to smell a little bit. But okay, well, listen, thank you so much. We unfortunately, we should go because we have a bunch of other people that are.
No, I got it.
We appreciate
it.
But just to be clear, just to address something that's going on in the chat, we have some data, but we do not have enough to make a clear interpretation of what went on here. We would be totally shooting in the dark, attempting to interpret it. But there are whiffs that are suggestive. But a lot of questions would have to be answered before I'd be comfortable opining really on what went on there. So, how many other? Hello?
Hi.
What happened?
I don't know.
Why did your head just get giant, like the Wizard of Oz or something? Like I thought I was disconnected. That was super weird. You were like, "Hello, I am Big Brother," and then like you went back to yourself. I don't know what.
No, I just clicked the wrong button.
Oh, okay. Please don't do that to me. That was a little terrifying.
Really?
Okay.
You didn't like my face?
It was like this huge random close up of you, and then you were like back. It was all very anyway. So, so who's next?
Let's see. Cian. Is that how you pronounce it?
Oh.
Cian? Sian. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Are they still there?
They were. Maybe they fell asleep.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's an Irish name, by the way.
I don't know. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air. Where are you calling from? What's your name?
Yeah. Hello? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, sure can.
Thank God.
So I have a question for just opinion, what you two think. 3 years ago, my husband tried to unalive me, and I have been fighting to get the case to the DA's office. I can't believe in 2025 the misogyny is so real. He just had to say basically she's crazy, and that was good enough. And I've finally been fighting. There's a 5-year statute, and I'm have been fighting all this time to like, I'm just like, you guys just, I mean, it blows my mind. Like I wouldn't, if it wasn't happening to me, I wouldn't believe it. Just oh, okay, she's nuts. It didn't happen. And just the first responders going, okay, he's right, you're not. Boom, done. So I finally, I've been pushing and pushing and pushing. I've gotten to the point where it's at the DA's office. One thing that's very important to me is hopefully seeing this through. But another thing is like training for first responders who, if, God forbid there's someone behind me, because the way they responded was just obscene. So when I go and talk to the prosecutors, just wondering if either of you have any suggestions or tips, or because I'd like to see this thing through, and I'm bracing myself.
I cannot answer this question. That it would be totally unethical for me to.
I gotcha. Yeah,
Josh, if that's something that you want to talk about, please do. But I have to demur on this.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, do you have a lawyer?
I do. But I mean, there's a bunch of things going on. Um, I just can't believe. I mean, and it's my nature. Like I'm just like I'm not gonna let this go. Um,
Yeah,
um,
I understand.
um, and so I'm hoping, you know, if anything comes out of it, that at least there is better training. And I've discussed this with you know, with the sergeant that finally listened to me because I've been calling and calling and calling, and you know, just I mean, like I said, if it wasn't happening to me, I wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
You know that it's 2025, and you know,
Well,
like
the thing is, and I don't want to, honestly, I don't want to hurt your case, because
right,
if you have a lawyer and, you know, any of this could be used, and I don't want, if
yeah,
it's at DA, it's in a good spot. Hopefully that they'll go through with it
yeah,
and look at your case. But other than, you know, eh, making sure you have all your documents,
yeah,
documentation in order,
yep,
just keep pressing on, and you know, listen to the advice of your lawyer, because I'm just saying that I don't want to get you or your case
I
in
get it.
trouble.
Yeah,
And I am sorry when people are marginalized, it really sucks. And when people feel like they aren't being listened to and believed, it will just set you off. I get it. I understand
yeah,
that.
and it's just kind of who I am. I'm like, this is how I have to deal with it for myself.
Correct.
You
Correct.
know, and
Yes.
so
But
but
yeah,
knowing full well it may go nowhere, but I have to at least try.
absolutely. And it sounds like, you know, if the DA has it, then I would, like I said, I would just listen to the advice of your lawyer, and then just get all your documentation in order. Other than that, there's really not much more you can do, unfortunately, if the DA decides not to file. So
Right,
um,
exactly.
I
At least I
hope,
got it this far.
absolutely, and for that you should be very proud of yourself for protecting yourself. But I do appreciate the call. I wish that we could be more help.
No, totally understand.
Yeah, but thank you
Enjoy
so
the
much.
show. Thank you.
Bye. Okay. Yeah, man, being marginalized and not listened to is a tough thing sometimes. I know know the feeling. Okay. Let's see. Kim, you're on the air. Where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm from Australia. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Um, I had a question for Dr. Gary, and I know he's talked about it a lot, and you might find it a little annoying to have to talk about it again. But I want to talk about his opinion that Brian Kohlberger isn't an incel. And the reason I want to challenge that a little bit is because I know he's talked about how he was able to get dates, but I don't think he was ever very successful in those dates. And they usually ended in women feeling creeped out, and
Right.
I'm sure he would have felt that awkwardness and rejection. And I guess it's involuntarily celibate, and I still would argue he probably was involuntarily celibate.
No, I don't think that he wanted to have sexual relations because I think he felt inadequate. I think he was given opportunities, shot them down. For example, he went up to a woman's apartment on a date, and I mean, Lord knows what the reason is that they went up there together alone. As I understand it, they were alone, but he said that he wanted to tickle her. And she wound up being
Which is
so
weird.
uncomfortable that she went to the bathroom and pretended to be sick until he left, and then he made the weird remark about her birthing hips. Then there's the exchange student who apparently had some kind of interest in him. He wasn't interested in her. We don't know the reason for that. Based on this guy's character, I wouldn't be surprised if it was racial or some other thing that he used as a justification for dismissing her. But ultimately did not have any kind of meaningful connection with her. And yet, there's the whole hypothesis out there, the fear that she herself reportedly had, that he was using her Wi-Fi password or whatever to watch her. So, so what I think is that it's not that this is the classic story of a guy who wants to have an ordinary relationship with a woman but feels he can't. This is a woman who hates women and apparently wants to assault them and kill them. You understand? There's a very big difference. And
I
so
know,
that
but I
the
think
fantasy that this particular person had, that Koberger apparently had, was like a kind of paraphilic thing where you get aroused and excited by domination and control through these kind of mechanisms. That's very different than a person who's an incel who kills basically out of anger with no sexual component because they feel kind of completely inadequate, just as an expression of rage because they, at the women and then at the men who are more attracted than them. I do think that the case smacks of that kind of insecurity, but there are many serial killers, and I think he was a budding serial killer. There are many serial killers and budding serial killers that had stories like that. You could make the same argument that many of these serial killers were incels or incel-like. But the fact of
I
the
get
matter is that we don't categorize them that way. We think of them as men who had perverse sexual ideas that had to do with domination and control over women.
But could it be that because he actually did feel inadequate, sexually with women, that was the reason he wanted them to be unconscious? And although he
Well, he
obviously
never said that.
idolized,
That's the point I've made, and other people have made, but he never said that.
I mean, it doesn't look like from the reports of women coming back that he's had any sexual success or relationship success at all.
I don't know.
And then,
I heard a classmate of his on another show, whether it's true or not, say that he was dating in high school.
I heard
Okay.
McDonough say that he's going to lose his virginity in prison.
Yeah. I heard that.
That's what
Yeah.
McDonough said.
I guess the other thing is, I mean, I'm not a doctor, and you are a doctor, and obviously.
Yeah, no, but I think there's a lot of value in what you're saying. Please don't take what I'm saying like I'm right, you're wrong. I don't feel that way at all. I just think that because I try to think like a scientist. If there's data that challenges what I'm saying, great. I'm just saying that knowing these kinds of cases, there are incelish qualities to many people who commit sexually motivated offenses. But
I guess if
you have to
as
go
a
right.
Like as a lay person looking at Kohlberger and comparing him to Ted Bundy or Rogers, he looks more like Rogers to me in his awkwardness and like an apparent obsession with the groups of people that seem to be socializing successfully. I think it looks like he wanted to do that.
No, I don't think so. I think based on the pornography that he was viewing, the motivation was much more about like that if he could, he would want to like blitz a woman or drug a woman and have her lay there and do things to her in a weird kind of sexual and experimental way. And everything got messed up in that house. And and it's important to understand also that Bundy was a necrophile. In other words, several of the people that were on the list of people he studied, and he did not study Roger, several of the people that he studied were necrophiles. So it is entirely possible that the attraction to pornography in which women are drugged is that they look dead. Remember also attacking women that are sleeping could have something to do with that. So I just think that it has something to do with feeling inadequate and wanting to sort of dominate a person that is laying there and can't move and is helpless and so forth and can't judge you. But he has not said that. But I think the reason it's a difficult conversation is because he did not progress to serial killing, but he looks so much like somebody who was going to. And if he had, then all the experts would be talking all about how he was just a classic offender. Mass murderers do not tend to be motivated like he was. You tend to see that in mass murderers like BTK who go on to serially kill. See? And so that's more the way I think he was going. So the whole incel theory is not adequate for that because once the incel expresses the rage towards the group, it's not like I'm playing out a fantasy over and over again with a sexualized quality that I need to perfect. I think that's what Koberger was going to do. See what I mean? And the people he was studying suggest that. So he may have been incel.
I was wondering,
right?
Yeah, I was wondering if his obsession with Bundy could have been more about how successful Bundy was as a social person as well.
That's a good question. I think that he wanted to be like that. Of all the different people he studied, I think he was drawn to Bundy because of the fragmentation of Bundy's identity, that the double life, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There were other offenders he was interested in. Yes, but I think there was a special. Please.
He was always going to have a massive gap between how successful Bundy was socially, how charming he was.
Yes, right. Not on his
charismatic he
day.
was.
Could he have that kind
and
of?
And Kohlberger was awkward. Yes, so he looks more like Rogers. Like he's awkward, he's weird, he doesn't.
He doesn't look like Rogers to me. He looks more like a son of Sam than a Bundy.
Okay,
on a skin tag or something.
Yeah, no, I think that there are very significant differences, and I think we can't get the Roger thing out of our head. It's like a really good example of how if something gets into the media and is repeated enough, even when there's no evidence of it, you can't get rid of it. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
but you gotta get out of your
also-
head the idea that Roger has anything to do with Kohlberger. Like once you get that out of your head, you can start to look at the facts on the ground. But that has unfortunately gotten in there, and you can't get it out. And and that's a problem. You're
and to me, he has that awkward.
Yeah.
He has that social disability as well. That
Right.
kind of reminds me of that type of person who can't relate to people properly. So
no, there's
time,
definitely that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Every time you talk about it, I think about it a lot. And so I was like, I'm just gonna call and just
I think it's a really did you ever call before?
No, I don't think so. No.
Oh, you sound
I'm always too
like another call.
I'm always too shy. It's probably because I'm Australian and you've had Australian callers.
Maybe, but your voice sounds exactly like somebody we've previously. I just thought that you were the, but it's a pleasure to speak to you. Which part of Australia are you from?
I'm from Canberra. The other thing I was going to say that I find interesting is one of the callers was talking about how she had a friend that went missing. I also have a friend that was murdered, and I was wondering, how many people in the chat have had that experience?
A lot, I'm sure.
It seems like a lot. But yeah, I'm so grateful that you answered my question, and thank you for talking to me.
Of course. Who was the person that you lost?
She was a friend of mine that I worked with for a couple of years. And I went to go and pick her up for work, and she wasn't there. And then, of course, she wasn't there all day, and then she was missing for 2 weeks, and then she was found. But the case has never been solved.
Oh, Lord.
And
how old was she?
I still think she was 23.
Oh, God.
And she hadn't moved here. I think she'd only been here for a year. And that was, something I think about a lot. I still think about it. I still look the case up. But there's never any changes, any movement. And it was my social circle at the time as well. So I think about, was I talking to people that were involved? I don't know. But yeah, so.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of very especially horrifying cases that come out of that part of the world. In the annals of true crime, I mean, Australia has had some real doozies, I have to tell you.
That's
you know what I'm saying? I mean, serial killers that are just unbelievable. And remember the stalker of Olivia Newton-John?
Yes, I do.
That was some story, right? I was just
Yeah.
writing about it because I'm writing about the different motivations for stalking behavior, and
Hmm.
that is some case. Oh my goodness! But you know what I mean about that? There are just some cases in
Yeah, I don't
Australia
know.
that
I
are
don't know what it
mind-boggling.
is about Australia, particularly like Adelaide and Perth. I don't know. There's some really weird men around, or mostly men. But yeah, I don't know what it is about here that produces weird people. Maybe they're on farms alone. I don't know.
No, I don't have
But
any idea about why it is. I just think it's interesting that
Small farm animals.
yeah, but there are very
yeah, it's
special
like Florida.
cases.
Exactly.
Really
Florida in
interesting stuff.
America. There's always weird things happening in Florida.
Yeah, that I know what you mean.
Yes.
Well, this is a it was a very interesting call. I think Josh has shut down the call in. People are asking if they can, but I think that's been shut down now.
Yeah, we're almost at 3 hours. We got another call to get through. And
Oh,
Kim, thank you for calling.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Kim. That was really fun, and I appreciate it. I'm so sorry about your friend. I'm sure that's
Thank you.
going to be a life's work
Thank you so
to get
much.
over. Yeah, right.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Okay.
much for talking
You're
to me.
so welcome.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay.
All right, we got one more call. Let me see here. And I appreciate everybody being so patient tonight. And we've taken a lot of calls. This might be the most calls we've ever taken.
So much for the people not being good at delaying gratification. We are teaching them.
Allison, where are you calling from, Allison?
Hi guys, I'm calling from Melbourne, Australia.
We got another one.
Australian. There you go.
And the previous call sounded so much like me, I thought it was me talking, which is
That's hysterical.
You guys sound a bit alike.
yeah. I called a couple of weeks ago when Chris was on the show, and
I think you're the person that I thought the previous person was.
I know. She sounded like me. I know.
Yeah, it's so funny.
So anyway, yeah, thank you for listening to me and talking to me about that story. Chris mentioned that my boyfriend who perpetrated that crime might be a power assurance rapist.
Oh, I remember that conversation. Yes.
Do you, can you tell me more about that sort of offender?
Well, what he's referring to are the subtypes of sexual assault or rape offender that have been described. I believe that's in the crime classification manual. I know John Douglas wrote about them. Let me see if I can remember it off the top of my head. So there's the power reassurance, there's the opportunistic, there's the aggressive, and there's the sadistic. So opportunistic is, which I believe is one of the more common types, is where an individual finds him, and much more rarely herself, in a situation where a person is vulnerable and then sort of opportunistically takes advantage and assaults the person. Like a friend has become intoxicated at a party and there's somebody that you find attractive and they're laying passed out in a room and you touch them or you assault them. Or I don't have to give other examples, but the point is that the person just sort of takes advantage of a vulnerable situation. And those, if I remember correctly, are more often than not people who know you, who are in those situations with you.
Yeah.
Then I'll save the power reassurance one because it came up specifically with Chris. So then the aggressive assault, as I recall, the way it's described, is not really about sex per se. It is about an expression of rage toward women or the woman,
Yeah.
for feelings of rejection or inadequacy, so forth. And there can be really awful stuff that happens in addition to the sexual act itself, like strangulation or punching or things like that. And in sadistic assault, the purpose is the expression of domination, control, misogyny through a kind of protracted torture of the victim. So the sexual assault is in the context of all kinds of other outrages that are done. I mean, there are so many classic cases of that, but you just have to think of a torture murderer or a torture assaulter who will protract the pain and do all kinds of unspeakable things, with the purpose being the extreme pain of the victim. A power reassurance offender is somebody who has felt slighted or rejected by women or a woman, and then goes out to sort of get his confidence back by assaulting someone else. So the idea is like, like the offender pulls a woman into an alley and attacks her, and then we find out that like the day before he had tried to, pick somebody up and was told that he was ugly, that kind of thing. So the purpose is this sort of restoration of the inflated sense of the self as a man, to gas one's head up again, that one is confident or powerful or attractive or whatever. And so the four categories basically have to do with, opportunity, with, the motive of sort of reinflating oneself, the expression of aggression, or the expression of hatred through torture. And one of the interesting things about those categories is that some of them, but not all of them, are associated with repetitively committing assaults, because it's so fantasy based that you just have to keep doing it until you perfect your sense of it. It's very different than a situational offender. So what that should clarify. I hope that clarifies what Chris might have meant when he opined that you might be dealing with that kind
Yeah,
of.
and by the way, I'll never forget your story. I really won't. I mean,
Yeah, I remember it also.
Yeah, vividly remember it. And
Sorry, I didn't mean to traumatize everybody.
no, look, I got plenty of my own. I can fit some more.
Does that description make sense?
Yeah. Oh, he was filled with hate, I think,
Mm-hmm.
particularly for women. And I think he would have done it again.
Who says he hasn't?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Well, I don't know anything about it to be able to.
I just look. We don't even know who the guy is. I'm just saying that. I mean, somebody that with the propensity to do something like that, I mean, I couldn't imagine somebody just waking up one day and going, "I'm going to do this one time." I'm sure it happens, but geez, terrible.
Yeah.
It's an escalation, sometimes. But anyway, thank you so much for your call and sharing your story with us. And please call back in again. We love hearing from you.
No worries. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Allison.
Thank you. Really. So, okay.
That's it.
And I think that's everything. There was a lot, but I'm glad we had an opportunity to review those four subtypes. If you don't mind, Josh, there was something I wanted to read to the audience. May I?
By all means.
I know you love when it starts.
I do. I really do.
Not a reading time, but I really do. I read something that I really loved, and I want to just share it with the group.
Please.
It's by Danusha Lamaris, the poet Danusha Lamaris, and I think it would be very powerful to take in. Okay, just before we end.
Sure.
And I had never heard of it before. It was in an anthology, and it's called Small Kindnesses. And it goes like this. I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull in their legs to let you by. Or how strangers still say bless you when someone sneezes, a leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we're saying. And sometimes when you spill lemons from your grocery bag, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly, we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed our cup of coffee hot and to say thank you to the person handing it, to smile at them and for them to smile back, for the waitress to call us honey when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder, and for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire, only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are the true dwelling of the holy, these fleeting temples we make together when we say, "Here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat." Isn't that beautiful?
That was lovely. It really was. And I don't want the audience to get I give Dr. Gary, I give him crap about, but he always comes with we've done a lot of shows, man.
I love that poem. I think it's very beautiful.
You always have
I know my literature.
Yes, you do. You want to own a bookstore.
But in all seriousness, it's a beautiful poem because that point she makes, that maybe in the final analysis, when you go looking for the temple, when you go looking for God, maybe that's it. Maybe it's those little kindnesses that make hell into heaven.
Sort of like some worthless camels that get plucked out of a herd and may or may not deliver people to the anyway.
But I really want people to take home the message of that poem, because in all seriousness, we've had a couple of weeks. We've had a couple of weeks.
No
and
question.
it really does feel like the fiber is tearing and that everything is sort of, like the center cannot hold, kind of a thing. And I just love the poem because it reminds us that now more than ever is not the time to get hot-headed.
Correct.
It is the time to be kind to people, and remember that no matter what your religion is, no matter what your politics are, no matter what your philosophy is, if it teaches you to not be kind to people, it can't be true. Anything that is true, I mean, like when Christ said, a tree is known by its fruit. The fruit that comes out of anything that is true when it comes to this stuff has got to have something to do with being kind to people. And the minute you stop being kind to people, it's a lie. That's the thing you have to try to remember. Once you find yourself rationalizing being awful to people, you have fallen for some kind of lie. And that's the point. And so I just want to put that out there because I have to try so hard sometimes to be kind to people that are truly awful. And I think those little acts have a ripple effect, and they're a big deal. Josh, the reason I do this show and don't get anything out of it is because I think it's a kind thing to do. That's why I don't like when people give you crap or give me crap or whatever, because there's no point in doing it other than to just be nice.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying? And so I just want to put that out there, that no one could fault you when you're kind. You know what I mean?
I know that I appreciate your time, and I know that the audience does, and they flock
and yours.
Well, they flock here to, they love to hear from somebody so well educated, and so, and I hang on your words too.
And who can impersonate Yoda? Now, in seriousness, did you like the poem?
I did.
And do you agree with the point that there is something very true and holy about kindness?
I do. I've always thought, like I am by nature, I think, a decently kind person.
You are.
I don't get. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a screamer and a thrower of stuff or anything like that. I don't punch walls. I've never done anything like that because I mean, well, frankly, that's what I grew up around, where, you know, at least my early years. And I just have never understood the whole point of, you know, being cruel or overly cruel for that matter. Now, if somebody's going to give me some crap, you know, I'm going to give it, you know, I give it back. No question about it. But yeah, there's something humane about caring for your brothers and sisters that are in one way, shape, or form. You know, we're all connected.
I know. I always say that with many of the things that go on in the world, I feel like we're the siblings at a table arguing, and then we yell at God. You know, like which one of us is right? And God, like a parent, would come up and say, "Would you shut up? That's your brother. That's your sister. Eat
Yeah,
dinner,
exactly.
right? Eat dinner."
Yeah, you said that something one time. You said something like that. This was a long time ago, probably one of our first shows that we did together. But you said, you know, you said, you know, we'll probably be surprised when we get to heaven and see who's sitting at the dinner table with
Oh
us.
yeah, we're gonna be upset. Some of us.
Maybe.
Some of us are gonna. You know who I'll be surprised is there? Me.
No. Oh, come on.
If I'm there, I'd be flabbergasted.
You
But
know, you're going to be ordering the
people,
chicken parm. You're going to be sitting there with eating chicken parm, talking in your Brooklyn accent or Manhattan
it
accent.
will only be because of grace,
Amen.
but not because of anything inherent in me. But I really think that it sounds like a corny point, but in every call, every single person who called, there was some variation on the theme of that somebody could have been kinder. You know, that's really the common denominator across everything that everybody calls about. And you know, it's you go back and watch, I really think it's true in every single call. And so that's why, like, I hope that you know, I'll just say as a final comment, you know, because I can go on. I just think that you have to treat each day like a new life. You wake up in the morning and you go to bed at night, it's like a mini life. And if in that little day, that little Groundhog's Day life, you got something wrong, make it better the next day. If you got something right, you have to repeat it the next day or it's like it never happened. And you keep repeating until you're living your values. See what I mean? You have to live your values. And if I were to say to you, Josh, tell me something you did today where you loved a person, right? You gave food to someone who was hungry. You gave something to drink to somebody who was thirsty. Were you kind to a stranger and welcomed them? Did you visit someone in prison? Did you clothe someone naked? Did you, you know, visit someone sick? Whatever. The answer should be yes. Now, this call that we did, I suppose it falls under the umbrella in some cases of visiting people who are feeling unwell. Right? It falls on that kind of rubric or welcoming strangers. And so in doing this, there's a kind of an act of mercy there. But I really think like every day you have to be able to, and if you do that, your life is worth something because in the end, even if nobody acknowledges it, you know, because if I remember correctly, one of the most beautiful things it says in the scripture is that even giving somebody a cold glass of water is remembered for eternity. And you know, so what a beautiful thing. So I just want to put that out there. Now, have I ever been not nice? Yes, because I'm sure you've had your moments too.
No.
You know, you've had your moments too, haven't you?
I'm
Well, you've never been mean to me. Never.
I never have.
Never.
You change that.
I mean, other than when you said that I was Yoda cephalic, you know, today. But beyond that, you know, no.
That was a term of endearment.
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose so. But you've never been mean to me, never. And you know, you're a you like to bust humps, you know. But you're
Hey,
not a bad.
speaking of humps,
Oh God.
there's this poem, this thing that I've been. Never mind. I'm just kidding. Dr. Gary, thank you so much for being here.
I got scared. I really thought you were going to read it. I really did. I was ready to like leap out of the
Mm.
frame. But,
Well,
but in all seriousness, thank you, and I'm sure we'll be back soon. And thanks again. Okay. All right.
yeah,
Take
thank
care,
you.
everyone. All right. Bye.
Okay. There was Dr. Gary in the house, and he always great to have him. So thank you guys. I will spare you the I will spare you the camel story again, but I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you for all the likes and hanging out. Callers, I really appreciate you guys hanging on. I know that sometimes we make you wait, and for that I apologize. But we really do try and connect with people that call, and I always feel like rushing people off is just not a proper thing, because that's not really why we do it. Although sometimes there are time constraints and we do have to move along. However, um, I love taking you guys' calls, and I know that Dr. Gary does as well. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for being here. And I'm your host, Joshua Diaz, and I will catch you guys next time.